to NASCAR. The UEFA Champions League Final. The MLB All-Star Game. The UFC. NCAA Football. The NFL. And the World Series. The world's biggest events are on Fox Sports.
We are Fox Sports!
Spring break has arrived on the Pacific Coast. With the shadow of Hollywood as a backdrop, the small town of Fontana takes center stage. NASCAR on Fox rolls out the red carpet for these leading men to find out which driver will find his way on this freeway in an unscripted high-speed chase to the finish.
Racing day so loud out here I can't hear a thing. Man, the fans are going wild. And these drivers came to rock, and no place else but Fox knows how to do it NASCAR style.
Boogity, boogity, boogity! Let's go racing, boys!
Hey, now here we go, race day. Don't you be going slow. Keep that pedal down on the floor. Push it to the crowd, can't take no more. Been there since the flag came down. Be here to the last lap around. Worked all week, it's time to play. Gonna get a little bit sideways. There since the flag came down. Be here to the last lap around. Worked all week, it's time to play. Gonna get a little bit sideways.
NASCAR on Fox welcomes you to Fontana, California. A wide open start to the season, and that's what we'll see today. Wide open racing. There's the guy who won the race last year, Californian Kevin Harvick. Kyle Busch looking for his first win of this young season, and Carl Edwards trying to get to victory lane. How will teammates Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Jeff Gordon collect themselves after running into each other last weekend in Bristol? We'll find out on the NASCAR on Fox pre-race show delivered by Pizza Hut. This is the place where America gathers every weekend for NASCAR as we welcome you inside the Hollywood Hotel. I'm glad you're with us. I'm Chris Myers. It's been a season won by Matt Kenseth, Denny Hamlin, Tony Stewart, Brad Keselowski. Who's it going to be today? To help us find out, Darrell Waltrip, Michael Waltrip, and nice to see you guys out west here. Your early gauge on the season so far.
Well, I like what I'm seeing. We've seen some incredible excitement. We've seen different winners, different manufacturers, different pole setters. Everything is a story. Every week it's something new and something different. I really like that. And these cars, Michael, are bad fast.
Yeah, you know what? Fast cars, you go too fast, you run into stuff. Look at some of the guys that crashed. We didn't even make it 2 laps into 2012 season. Jimmy Johnson's tangled up with Danica Patrick. We saw Kyle Busch wreck at Bristol. Heck, Dale Jr. wrecked Jeff Gordon. We've got some rivalries. We've got some fun things happening.
Over 200 miles per hour around this track. But let's check the NASCAR headlines. And speaking of Jimmy Johnson, celebrating with Team 48 after the appeal process, they won only a $100,000 fine for Chad Knaus and on probation until May. Discussions underway for Bristol Motor Speedway to reconfigure things to return to that old racing style. A decision expected soon. Dale Earnhardt Jr. taking responsibility this week after running into his teammate Jeff Gordon last week. Gordon was running 5th at the time. Jeff will start from row 11 today. Jr. from row 7. And Joe Gibbs Racing has the front row. Denny Hamlin on the pole for our race here. Kyle Busch starting alongside. Joe Gibbs Racing has never won a Sprint Cup race here, which is a little bit unusual. But let's go back to the big ruling, the chief appellate on Jimmy Johnson, Mr. Middlebrook. Did they get it right at the end?
First of all, I'm thankful we have an appeal process. Unlike the NFL, they make a ruling and you live with it. Here, you know, I think the penalty was excessive. I think from the get-go that was a little too much. I think the fine and the probation was appropriate, and that's what Middlebrook ruled, and I agree.
The car, it's supposed to be solid, no compromising its integrity. The integrity was compromised. I'm a bit confused. I don't understand what happened.
Okay, brother.
He's often confused.
Get over it one day.
But for Jimmy Johnson, up there in points again, right? He's a 6th championship. His head is clear now.
Yeah, and we're at a track where he is the man.
Last year, he drove to the finish, couldn't quite pull it off, but the year before he won here, so look for him to be tough today.
He is a 5-time winner here. Here's what's coming up on our show as we continue to get you ready for the start of the race. Bad Brad looked awful good when he was in Bristol last week. Keselowski will join us live to see how he feels about his car in today's race. And Jimmy, happy to be in his home state of California, working on a new venture and some other things that we can all take part in. Plus, we'll hear from our points leader, Greg Biffle, trying to do something that's never been done before in NASCAR, and he's off to a good start. And so are we here on our Golden State Edition.
Last week, Bristol's reigning champion eluded early trouble.
Damn, guys, we're cutting people off.
How close Brad Keselowski came to being involved in that.
Thunder Valley short track took its toll. Even two of the most celebrated gladiators could not escape the last great Coliseum unscathed.
Thank you, Jesus. Appreciate it, buddy.
At day's end, it was Bad Brad who prevailed.
Awesome car.
4 races, 4 different winners. Will the 5th come today? You'll have to watch to find out.
Anxious to see what happens today as is veteran Jeff Burton. We welcome you back to the NASCAR on Fox pre-race show delivered by Pizza Hut. And so far the weather good. You see the skies. No rain here in Fontana, California. Jimmy Johnson from nearby El Cajon is one of 7 California drivers in the race. He's the 5-time champ, of course, but he's won here, as we said, 5 times. And with his team still intact, he's had a busy week and is anxious to get things rolling.
What a week. Got off to a great start on Tuesday with the appeal being overturned, and I was going to have my crew chief, my car chief, and we got our points back. So now it's on to bigger and better things. Time to win a race here in Cali. Coming back to Cali, placed my very first win. What an awesome day. You know what? I even had a chance to work on my own stage dive here. Not bad form. Made a quick stop in Hollywood. Went on the show The Talk. Was surrounded by a lot of lovely ladies. Certainly nothing wrong with that. Next stop was the Jimmy Kimmel Show, and had a great time on the show. And still curious as to where he found this photo. Clearly, I wasn't prepared for this. I look forward to finding photos of him during Christmas getting it back. Coming home also means the Jimmy Johnson Foundation. To date, we've raised over $2 million in the area where I grew up. A lot of fun, a lot of great projects like the Habitat for Humanity build that we did. And it's something that Shani and I are so very proud of. Driving into Fontana, you know, there's those mountains over there on the side, snow on top, and seeing all that snow reminded me of this. I couldn't help myself. I had to buy some GoPro equipment and then put it on my skis. I had a blast and thought I'd share this footage with you guys. Of course, there's me falling over. We could have edited that out, but it's made it. Here's a little tree run for you. Nothing too out of control. All right, so a little tip. The adhesive that's on the bottom of a GoPro may not stick to a ski all that well. Here's the proof. Then you have to chase your camera down the mountain and hopefully get it before it heads out in the trees, which I did. A little picnic bench action. And I didn't know that was there, actually. After I went off it, I had to turn around and look and see what it was. You know, just a little side kicker. Nothing too out of control. And of course, I wouldn't show any footage that would make Mr. Hendrick upset or Lowe's. You actually can see the good stuff on my Facebook page if you want to check that out and see what else I was up to on the slopes.
Hendrick Motorsports, Jimmy, being introduced here. Hasn't won in the last 10 races, but one more, and they get 200. And Jimmy hoping to deliver that.
He's worried about Rick seeing him skiing. I wonder what he thought when he was driving on top of that golf cart. That was dangerous. But he couldn't be coming to a better racetrack. You talk about those guys haven't won for a while. This is a track that he owns, and he'll be tough today, I guarantee you.
I just sent him a text and said, nice sweater, and he said, I love Christmas.
Yes, from his little holiday ride. Last 3 races.
Maybe it's because of the present they got.
He's had the best average finish. Meanwhile, Casey Kane, one of the Hendrick teammates of Jimmy, his struggles continue. In 2006, Kane won 6 races, set the bar high. Then it was set even higher when this year he joined Hendrick Motorsports, and that's why after 4 races, it's mystifying. He's 32nd in the point standings. Jeff Hammond, in his University of Farmer report, has a closer look.
Casey Kane's season has been a disappointment. Wrecks and mistakes have taken their toll. The question is, can they turn it around? The answer, yes. And I'll give you 3 good reasons why, and it won't be done with luck. 1, fast car, which they've got. Number 2, a solid team and a solid crew chief, which they've got. And number 3, and most importantly, Casey himself. He's mentally tough. He has heart, folks. He knows how to win. They'll turn it around. And, folks, starting 5th today, Casey and company start making their way back.
Heard him say, Michael, mentally tough.
That's right. I talked to his crew in inspection just now. They said we have a problem with lap 30. They can't get past lap 30. They keep having crashes. Casey's going to be conservative early. You watch after that point in the race, though. He'll be strong.
Here's the thing. He's in the best place he's ever been. Team with a lot of resources. He was expecting to go in there and come out of the gates and win Daytona. High expectations sometimes create big disappointments, and so far he's been off to a bit of a disappointment.
And Kane not firing his spotter, his cousin, right?
You can't fire family.
You've tried that, I think, and it hasn't worked. All right, coming up, and we'll count you down. We kid because we care. The start of the race, Kasey Kahne has started 4 times in the top 10. 19th his best finish. We'll talk live with the winner last week, Brad Keselowski. NASCAR and Fox pre-race show is presented by Pizza Hut. Order the new $10 dinner box today. Our pole sitter today is Denny Hamlin. There's Kevin Harvick with Kasey Kahne. There's Denny, a 1 top 5 finish at this track in 11 races. And again, Joe Gibbs Racing trying to win for the first time here. This is the 23rd Sprint Cup race at Fontana. Brad Keselowski had to win races last year to get into the chase for the Sprint Cup Championship as a wild card. He's already ahead of schedule this year. The driver who's led the most laps so far and gained the most Twitter followers comes to California with plenty to tweet about. And Brad is joining us live, his Miller Lite Dodge, with Roger Penske, his owner, from down on the track. Thanks, Brad. Congrats on the win in Bristol. Now, you said this place is not one of your best, so how do you change that today?
Well, strong car and a great team, and you can overcome a lot of hurdles. I think you look back, Chris, at Michigan last fall. I didn't feel really confident going into that race, but as a team, we put a whole race together, and before you know it, we finished 3rd. So, I kind of feel the same way I do when we entered Michigan.
Hey, Brad, it's DW. You know, last year I watched you save a lot of fuel in that race you won by pushing the clutch in, coasting off in the corner. Pretty smart, I might say.
Thank you.
With fuel injection, can you apply the same principles and increase gas mileage like that?
Well, I don't want to tell my competitors all that, but
you can just tell me.
We have some strategies. How about that? And there are some ways, and you could see that here today.
Good man.
Brad, it's Michael. At Bristol, you said, I got a great car I can win, and you did. It'd be some great TV if you'd say, I got a great car, I'm going to win today. You got a story for me?
Right. Well, I'm not really big about calling my shot, but what I will do is be honest about what I've got, whether that's with my team or with my fans. So I'll tell the fans out there today I'm optimistic. Not quite as strong a car as we had at Bristol, but I think we'll be okay. I think we're going to be strong.
And finally, much has been made of your Twitter account. What are you tweeting about as you get ready to hop in the car today?
Well, I'm going to tweet about I hope we can make the whole race. Obviously we had some struggles at Vegas with the fuel stuff, but between that and the impending weather that we hope is going to stay away, hopefully both of those will go away, and we'll have a whole complete race with the Blue Deuce and be able to get to victory lane at the end of 200 laps, 400 miles.
We'll be watching closely. Thanks, Brad. Good luck today.
Thank you. Thanks,
Good
guys.
luck, buddy. All right, we'll be keeping a close eye. You can actually select Brad as part of your fantasy team. Get in on the action with Fox Fantasy Racing, presented by Farmers Insurance. Pick your team of 5 drivers. Sign up today at foxsports.com/fantasy. He mentioned the weather. It has not rained yet. There is rain later in the day. Surprisingly, it could affect the race to halfway. More on that when we continue. And we'll hear from Greg Biffle, the points leader, plus gas and go.
Let's take a look at his 5 victories here at on the Club Speed.
Everybody ready for their close-up, not too far from Hollywood. Unscripted. What kind of ending will we have here? If you get an animal in the act, you always have a good chance of having a terrific show as we welcome you back inside the Hollywood Hotel. Presented by Pizza Hut, our NASCAR and Fox pre-race show. And in a season dominated by fire, rain, penalties, and feuds, Greg Biffle's been the steady hand on the wheel, keeping his mind focused on the road. Last year, he was 23rd in points at this time. And with 3 third-place finishes right now, he's the points leader and has his eye on securing a spot in the record books.
And here comes Biffle. He is locked in.
Look how hard Biffle drives down into the corner.
I'd say keep an eye on that 16 car. That man's hungry right now.
This car has become alive this year.
Hey guys, remember me? Greg Biffle, the Biff. Good old Greg. It feels like you haven't seen me much lately, but I wanted to remind you, I'm still around, and I'm still competitive as ever. My goal remains the same. Take home NASCAR's ultimate prize. I've already won championships in the other 2 series. All that's left, the toughest one, the Cup. And if I pull it off, I'll be the first guy ever to win at every level in NASCAR. On or off the track, I stay competitive. Whether it's driving my sand car, fishing with buddies, did you see the size of that fish? Or riding my dirt bike, I always look for ways to compete when I'm not in the race car. I'll even battle it out with my teammates. I don't care. Like when we each had a team of celebrities we coached to drive in the Auto Club Speedway. Everybody was there for charity and to have fun. But man, I wanted my team to be the best. That Kenseth guy, I don't know about him sometimes. When you're looking at the point standings, look at the top. It's the Biff.
And the Biff has won here before in California. Time now for Gas a Go. If you have questions, they have the answers, and we put them on the clock. It's rapid fire. All right, speaking of Greg Biffle, does he hold the points lead, Darrell? If he doesn't win a race, can he win the championship?
You can point your way into the chase, but you only win. You got to win to win the championship. You got to win races to win the championship. So you don't want to get like his teammate did last year and go down to the end of the wire there, tied for points and lose on who had the most wins. So you got to win.
Consistency won't get you anywhere anymore, Chris.
That's all right. Carl Edwards should know. All right. He did have a second place finish back in 2005 for a championship. Darrell, is it a surprise that Dale Earnhardt Jr. is the only Hendrick driver in the top 10 in points currently?
Well, it is to some degree, but I think the bigger issue with Dale Jr. and his team is they're really good at the beginning of these races, but they seem to lose focus before the race ends. If they could put the beginning and the middle and the end together, he could be in victory circle. But he has the ability to finish these races, but they need to win some races.
Back on win. All right, for you, Tony Stewart, he won at Las Vegas, his only top 10 finish this season. Safe to say that if he hasn't had some bad luck around him, in other words, when he's in control, he's going to be at the front.
No, this stuff's too hard. Remember last year he limped into the chase. Now he turned into Superman during the chase, but during that run to the chase, he didn't look that impressive. He's going to win some, he's going to lose some, but he's going to be around.
Always worth watching. Who do you like today's race before you head up to the booth?
I'm going to take the guy that was beating on his roof last week. He wants to win, Kyle Busch.
How about you, Michael?
Wow, I like Casey Kane. I think he puts all these problems behind him and gets to victory lane.
And that would help Hendrick Motorsports in victory lane. We'll continue to count you down to the start of the race here in Fontana, California. We're glad you're watching NASCAR on Fox. Here in Fontana, California at the Auto Club Speedway, 400 miles, 200 laps. The drivers getting ready to roll, and so far the rain has stayed away.
Ladies and gentlemen, would you please rise and remove your hats as the Charlie Company Recruiting and Retention Battalion, California Army National Guard present our nation's colors. And now, would you please welcome Jeff Hamilton from Motor Racing Outreach with today's invocation.
Good afternoon, everyone. Let's pray together. Dear Heavenly Father, we take a moment during today's event to give you thanks for the opportunity to be here and to enjoy this great day of racing. We thank you for the drivers and the teams, for the track staff and the sponsors. But most of all, we thank you. We thank you for the love you've made known to us, for your mercy that meets us in our time of need, for your grace in times of trouble, for the joy and peace that is ours each day. Keep our servicemen and women around the world safe in their duty. We ask for your blessing on the race today and your presence in our lives always. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing and welcome classic rock legends and 17-time platinum recording artist Night Ranger for the singing of our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight. For the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave? Oh, land of the
Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it. You can choose which of the top 4 qualifiers you think will finish best in the race today. Text FAST to 34763 or go to AT&T fastestdriver.com to play. You'll have a chance to win 4 Gs just by playing along in today's AT&T Fastest Driver Challenge. You'll get tweets during the race and updates from our own Michael Waltrip. Brought to you by the nation's largest 4G network. AT&T, rethink possible. NASCAR on Fox on the 5th race of the year from the Auto Club Speedway in Fontana, which is about, 60 miles east of Los Angeles, not too far from Hollywood and not too far from San Diego and El Cajon, where Jimmie Johnson is from, the 5-time champion we heard from a little bit earlier. Now, this track unique, challenges in the groove, trying to manage the scene, so we thought in Double Trouble, Daryl and Michael would star in their own version of Field of Scenes.
Man, the cars come down the back straightaway right here. There's some bumps down there. The car starts doing the hoochie coochie. And then you come flying into the corner, and then you hit one of these big patches. You don't know where that thing's going to end up. That's my trouble spot. Where's your trouble spot at, Michael?
Yo, brother, I'm over here. I'm in the middle of turn 3 and 4. That's a good place to be, right? Right in the middle of the track. Not according to the race car drivers. They're going to be running high, scraping the outside wall. Heck, they're even going to race off the track, down on the apron. Lots of room, plenty of room, lots of speed. But it all tightens up off turn 4. You get on that exit, you're going to need some space. Could get tight over there. That's my trouble spot, exit of turn 4.
And that is Double Trouble. Michael hustled here, put a coat on from the track. But let's show, we have a neat graphic illustrating how crowded it gets in that turn you were just talking about, where 10 cars can fit in there.
Yeah, and these cars, Chris, are going to be running 180 miles an hour when they come off this turn sideways, and they all got to merge together. The merging part is what makes me nervous.
So is there patience there? Do you just try to get ahead of the next guy? Will that cause wrecks?
You're looking around you and you're looking to the sky. What if it rains? I better go. I got to go.
Yeah, the race to halfway, very important. If rain does enter into this, as we get halfway, that would become an official race. But so far, it's dry here in Fontana, California.
This trio's legions of fans know them as the Ultimate Comedy Trio, and their new movie will be in theaters everywhere on April 13th. Ladies and gentlemen, for the most famous words in motorsports, please welcome the Three Stooges.
Maestro. Gentlemen. 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 Start your engines. Success.
Nothing like the Stooges to get those engines fired up. What are you looking at, Michael? Because there's only 2 of us in here. The race is right around the corner on Fox.
Let's go racing.
Here comes Hamlin.
You know what they're doing? They're having fun.
Yes, they are.
Oh, man, are they tight right there.
Better not take their eye off Kevin Harvick.
Here he comes. Harvick wins it.
Michael Waltrip, Chris Myers back here in the Hollywood Hotel getting ready to roll, and the forecast for the Auto Club 400, exciting and fast, presented by 5 Hour Energy. Lots of energy because with the possibility of rain later in the day here, Michael, and you want a rain-shortened Daytona 500, the pressure, and you heard Brad Keselowski talk about it, getting to that halfway point, but not knowing for sure if that's when things could end.
Yeah, I had the fastest car in Daytona that day, Chris, but I had to lead every lap. I had to drive like every lap was going to be the last one because I didn't know when the checkered flag was going to come. It was going to come when the rain fell, and that's what these guys are faced with today, being up front all day long. That's why the fans are going to see such a good race today. They're going to be desperate to claw their way to the front all day long.
It'll make the mid-race report even more interesting. We welcome in the guys who call NASCAR on Fox for you every week. Mike Joy, Larry McReynolds, and of course Darrell Waltrip, who's now up in the booth. And Mike, we go from that half mile, that short track in Bristol, to a 2-mile race, an extreme change here in California.
Right, Chris, these tracks couldn't be more different. Bristol's only 40 feet wide. This track is twice as wide. It's 4 times as big around, and the speeds. Well, you'll see more than 200 miles per hour entering the corner here. But, Darrell, how is driving the race car here so much different than Bristol?
Well, Mike, you got 14 degrees of banking. So when you go off in that first turn at over 200 miles an hour, close to 210 sometimes, and there are seams that we've talked about, the seams with the sealer. It won't be so bad today because it's overcast, but at 200 miles an hour, 14 degrees of banking, you hit one of those seams, you don't know which way that car is going to go. The back end can snap around, the front end can take off. It's not too bad when you're by yourself, but when you got people around you, look out.
Oh boy. Larry, to get your car to victory lane, what are your biggest concerns today?
Well, this is race number 5, and to give up on the stopwatch over a long run is the most of any racetrack these drivers have had to deal with so far. And every time we've been on the racetrack this weekend, it's been different because of the weather. I think you're going to see major changes even on the drivers that are leading this race, but my big concern, what adjustments and what do I do on that final pit stop in this 400-mile race?
All right, the field begins to roll off pit road. There is a threat of rain. They'll be racing hard to halfway and beyond in the 400-mile distance today. Let's have a look at the Geico starting grid. It's an all-Toyota front row. Teammates Denny Hamlin and Kyle Busch on row 1. Mark Martin, another Toyota, in row 2 with Greg Biffle's Ford, the point leader. Row 3, Casey Kane looking for a good finish. It would be his first of the year. He's a past winner here. And Ryan Newman, Kevin Harvick won last year, led only the last lap. Joey Logano won yesterday. Tony Stewart won here in the fall of 2010. And Jimmy Johnson, 5-time winner, leads every category here. Clint Boyer and Carl Edwards. Clint was very quick in practice. That's the 6th row. In row 7, Martin Truex and Dale Earnhardt Jr. Then Matt Kenseth, who is a 3-time winner here there with Jamie McMurray. Brad Keselowski, last week's winner. And as you have a look back through the rest of the field, Darrell, let's go to the front row.
Let's see if we can get our pole sitter here. Denny Hamlin, it's a DW. Got a copy, buddy?
Yeah,
Denny, you've won everything so far this weekend. You won practice, you won the pole. Can you win the race?
Yeah, our FedEx is especially on the short run, 10 laps. Our car is extremely fast. It's just whether we can keep that over the long haul is going to be the key for us today. But most of these races have come down to shootouts, so I've got a car one today.
How's things going with your new crew chief, Darian Grubb? Is that working out well for you?
Yeah, it's been good. I mean, he's been the catalyst for our early success, and he's been the guy who's kind of get our team rallied together this early in the season. Everything's learning as we go. Like I say, it's going to take a little bit of time to get the down pat, but a good start.
All right, my friend, put that 11 in victory circle.
10, 4 more.
If he can, it'll be the 2nd time this season for Denny Hamlin. Let's get late-breaking stories from pit road, beginning with Dick Berggren.
Well, Kyle Busch won his first ever pole here, and also his first Sprint Cup win came at this racetrack. So he's very good here. He will start in the 2nd position, and told me moments before he climbed into the car that he is looking forward to today's race, turning around what for Kyle Busch has been a subpar season. Matt Yoakum.
predict, Kevin Harvick sure likes to make it exciting. 4 of his last 8 wins were scored after last lap passes, including last year here at Auto Club Speedway. Harvick told me the question, though, is when will be the last lap today? Whether a concern, he says the pace is going to be fast. You have to race every lap like it is the last. And he says, but the guy who's going to have the most pressure, right over my shoulder, his crew chief, Shane Wilson. That's the guy that's got to pull out the best strategy of all. Chris Devoda?
Look on a map and it says we're in Fontana, but it should be called Johnsonville. 5 wins total, 4 in the last 8 at this racetrack. Why is Jimmie Johnson so good here? Because it's a place where a driver can move around. They can experiment. They don't have to settle. And when you're a driver as good as Jimmie Johnson, more room to run just means more chances to win. He is racing for a 6-pack, his 6th Fontana win. Steve Burns?
Well, Krista, Brad Keselowski comes off a big win at Bristol. Now this race team, led by crew chief Paul Wolfe, thinks that they've had a legitimate shot to win just about every race. The numbers don't reflect that, but Paul Wolfe saying today's race will be a huge barometer as to how much this team has improved. They expect good things today for Brad Keselowski. Where in the heck is Jeff Hammond?
Well, Steve Burns, I'm on top of the Fox Box, man, where I belong. We'll be watching this race from high above the racetrack. And the thing is, Matt Yoakum's already talked about it, the 29 car. Well, we're going to have a bird's eye view of that 29 team and how they perform on pit road today. We're going to break it down and show you what they did right and what they did wrong. Mike?
Thanks, Jeff. Ready to race in Southern California. The weather is advancing from the northwest as we get ready to go here. Lights still on, flashing on the pace car. And Mount Baldy is still a little difficult to see already with the advancing clouds. Mostly cloudy. Now, an hour before driver introductions, it was a cloudless sky and full sun here. So the weather's advancing. Teams are aware of it. And I'll give you a good show here for as long and strong as we can for 400 miles, 200 laps around this 2-mile speedway. This race is brought to you by Budweiser, the beer that starts with full flavor and ends with a crisp, fast finish. Great times are waiting. Grab some Buds. Weather or not, got a feeling we're just in for one of the best California races that we have seen. You can run 3, 4, and yesterday even 5 wide at this racetrack. It's go time.
There is an urgency. When there's weather in the area, there is always an urgency. There's urgency on the track. These crew chiefs, they got to step up their game, make quick decisions. Today is going to be all about getting it done and getting it done in a hurry.
Pit road speed 55, fuel window just inside of 80 miles. We'll go 200 laps today.
And Mike, you talked about how much wider this racetrack is than the short track at Bristol last week. I'll promise you at the start of the race and every restart, these drivers will use every ounce of the width of this track.
Actress Christy Swanson has the green flag in hand as we are ready to go for the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series at Fontana, California. I'm not one who believes that past is prologue, but an interesting statistic in 22 races here. The driver who led lap 1 has never gone to victory lane.
My. I wonder, maybe I'll call up Denny Hamlin and tell him.
Back it down.
Or Kyle or somebody. Back it off, guys. Back it off.
All right, here we go, Darrell.
Yes, sir, man. Out here in Southern California. The boys have been anxious to get this thing going. Want to beat the weather, beat the track, beat each other. Boogity, boogity, boogity. Let's go racing, boys.
Busch and Hamlin side by side, 3, 4 wide at 4th. Mark Martin in the picture. Greg Biffle's Ford, the number 16. Who will lead lap 1?
He wants that 1 point for leading the lap bad. They'll drag race to lead this lap right here.
It's Hamlin.
That could be the finish right there. But it would break that statistical thing about, the first leading the first lap.
Well, it's about time. Biffle tries to thread the needle between the two Toyotas. He's got a good run. Lined up behind Kyle Busch now and looking.
I tell you, Greg Biffle's kind of got an attitude right now. He's leading the points. I think he doesn't feel like he's getting enough love. You know, I think he really wants to show everybody, hey, I'm not only consistent, I'm bad, fast, and want to win.
Ryan Newman coming into the picture from 4th as Mark Martin slides to 5th. Brendan Gaughan on pit road. Jimmy Johnson coming. Side by side with Mark Martin. That's for 5th.
Yeah, 05 time. Jimmy Johnson started back in 10th in that 48 car. He started moving forward the minute they dropped the green flag.
And look at the wad right behind them. Casey Kane, Joey Logano, Kevin Harvick in the 29, Tony Stewart the 14.
That's what you like to do if you're Jimmy Johnson. Look at that wad behind me.
Kevin Harvick on the bottom. Chasing after Jimmy Johnson. Tony Stewart following suit.
Well, that bottom it's the shortest way, and you can really get position on a guy if you can drive off in there hard enough and the car will stick.
Carl Edwards drops behind Stewart on the low side.
Pretty interesting that Kevin Harvick and Jimmy Johnson are nose to tail.
Second place, Greg Biffle. Could not pass Denny Hamlin going into turns 1 and 2.
You know, you look at Greg Biffle in that 16 car, our points leader. He's qualified in the top 10 every race this year. But Krista, the biggest thing, he wants to get the victory lane.
Boy, does he ever, Larry Mack. Talking to his crew chief, Matt Pusha, this morning, he said the problem for us is just not having that grip, especially the first few laps of a run. Expect us to take about 3 or 4 laps before we find the grip and can make it stick. Greg Biffle just came on the radio and said just a little loose.
You know, this is rather technical. But a shock package here is the clue to having a good handling car. Handling those cracks that we were talking about, the sealer, handling the bumps. If you get an aggressive package, you'll be fast for a little while. But if you got a package that's kind of gentle and will ride those bumps, you're going to be good over the long haul. You're going to take better care of your tires.
202 miles an hour into turn 3 for Matt Kenseth. That's hauling the mail.
And that's, as I said in the open mic, that's 14 degrees of banking. There's not a whole lot of banking there to hold you or catch you.
Take a look at it down this longer front straightaway. I think we'll even see faster speeds with Matt Kenseth.
It's always faster down the front.
Front straightaway longer than the back stretch.
206.
Wow.
That would be 206.
It can be.
And not slower than 150 miles per hour off the throttle in the middle of the corner.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. When it's overcast like this, you can get back. These turns are so big. You get back in the throttle so quick. That's why you go so fast down these straightaways.
Hello, Newman. Ryan Newman battling Greg Biffle now for 4th place, or 3rd place, rather. Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, Biffle, and Newman.
I think Newman is, and that team is, that's another team that wants to kind of break out of the shadow of their owner. I think they really want to step up and say, look, Tony won the championship and races. We can do the same thing.
Matt?
Mike Newman told me that his race car pretty consistent all weekend, but where other drivers have struggled the most, the bumps and seams down in 1 and 2, that's the end of the racetrack that he has seen the most consistency and the most out of that 39 machine. They feel like when other guys start to lose grip on their tires and move up, he'll be even more of a rocket on the bottom.
Yeah, Matt, I'll be anxious to see how Ryan Newman is on the indoor run, because one of the things that's bit Ryan Newman and his team, they're good in practice on Saturday, but they don't make adjustments to keep up with the track during the race.
And Larry, you could blame that on the crew. You can blame it on the crew chief. I got to say it's more driver responsibility. That driver has to keep telling the crew chief what the car is doing, almost lap after lap.
Reed Sorensen has joined Brendan Gaughan in the garage. 7 laps into the race.
Darrell, this is good to see, Darrell, because I know you and I were concerned about Dale Earnhardt Jr., the comments he made at the end of practice yesterday. Started 14th. We just was riding with him. He's cracked the top 10 now.
He has, but if you notice, he's going where nobody else is right now. I mean, he is scraping that outside wall, and there's some grip up there, but there's also some danger up there of getting into the wall.
From Jimmy Johnson's car, you see Tony Stewart and Kevin Harvick battle just in front of him for 6th place. Let's go back to lap 1. Was this perhaps what we'll see at the finish of this race? Could be. 8 laps complete. You're watching NASCAR on Fox.
The Auto Club 400 on Fox, presented by 5 Hour Energy, is sponsored by the Auto Club. We're always with you. By DirecTV. If you call yourself a sports fan, you got to get DirecTV. And by 5 Hour Energy.
Denny Hamlin led the first lap. Kyle Busch led the next 12. We're 13 laps in. Here in Fontana, California, there's the separation first to second. They lead our Toyota top performers in what is a home game for Toyota Motor Sales USA, headquartered in Torrance, California, not far from here.
It doesn't surprise me to see Kyle leading this race. He had a great car here yesterday, and they had trouble at the end of the race in the pits, and it caused Kyle having a shot at a win, and there's definitely a good finish. But I think he really brings a lot of energy and a lot of information into his team today because they got to run that race yesterday.
Good point. Tony Stewart won the battle with Kevin Harvick. They went at it. Looked like Smoke put a slide job on Harvick down in the middle of the corner as they battled. Here's a look. And
I'm sorry. That was Tony saying, hey, bud. And that's Harvick saying, I'll push you on the straightaway now, but you do that again, I'm going to push you in the corner.
Which is what he did to Jimmy Johnson on the last lap a year ago to win the race.
Stewart now has passed his teammate Ryan Newman and moved up into fourth.
And Mike, I don't know what happened, but about 2 or 3 laps ago, that 14 took off. He passed Dale Jr., he passed Kevin Harvick, he just goes by his teammate Newman. He's on the move.
Well, Darrell, remember back to qualifying when Tony Stewart got really loose in turn 4 coming to the green flag, and he keyed the radio and he said it's something like, uh-oh, I'm going to have to make this up for you. And he did.
Yes, he did, buddy.
And this is the 5th different type of racetrack we've been to, but if there's a track that's relative to here, it would be Las Vegas, where he won a couple of weeks ago.
Hey, Darrell, I talked about my double trouble, how wide turn 4 is. I talked about the guys being off the racetrack. I've never seen anyone any lower than Jeff Gordon. You see me? He's all the way on the apron. Is that out of bounds? Is he going where he's not supposed to?
Oh, no. As you know, there's no out of bounds here. You can go wherever you want to. Just don't get out in the grass. I wouldn't recommend that. But there's 2 places around this racetrack where there's grip and the track's not so rough. One on the apron, and the other right up next, inches off of that wall. That's the 2 places where the track's the smoothest.
I'm going to have to change. We can fit 11 cars across turn 4 now because I didn't factor in them going all the way off the track like Jeff Gordon.
Good point. Jimmy Johnson, Kevin Harvick now side by side as they race for 6th and don't leave a lot of room between them.
It's just fun to ride along beside someone looking over at the car and just seeing how much the car sinks down in the corner. Don't have a lot of grip here, not a lot of downforce, but the car still sinks way down in the corner.
Now, we listened in on Kevin Harvick after that little skirmish with Tony Stewart.
Well, he's waving his arm at, but if he wants to wave his arm, I'll just shove him. Trying to keep his arms in his window. I didn't do anything wrong.
Now,
I don't know if he's saying thank you or what. That's cool. He wants to dive like that, but you got to leave us a lane. We run so much fast off the corner.
I think what Smoke 2 things. First of all, he says, man, it's early in the race. Give me the position. Second of all, he's saying, hey, dude, I'm sorry I slid up in front of you like that. But always like what Buddy Baker told me a long time ago. I said, what do you do when a guy shakes his fist at you like that? He said, knock the heck out of it.
When he only has one hand on the steering wheel?
That's right. He said he'll pull that other hand back in a hurry.
Well, you know enough about driver psychology. That wasn't a fist. It wasn't a single digit. It was an open hand wave. And that's kind of like an I'm sorry. Didn't mean it. That's okay.
It's an apology.
Yes, agreed. Evidently, Kevin didn't see it that way.
No, evidently.
20 laps under green. Kyle Busch has led all but one of them so far.
The Auto Club 400, presented by 5 Hour Energy, is sponsored by Sprint, proud sponsor of the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series. By Pizza Hut, order the new $10 dinner box today. And by Dodge, visit your local Dodge dealer today.
23 laps complete. Kyle Busch still leading. Let's have a look inside the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series, brought to you by Sprint. Greg Biffle has the fastest lap of the race of the 23 we've run so far, and Kyle Busch has led all but one lap. Get unlimited access to the Sprint Cup Series with live in-car audio and real-time stats available through the NASCAR Sprint Cup mobile app on your Android-powered device. Learn more at sprint.com/speed.
Mike, why do you think he didn't want to lead that first lap?
Well, it was that statistic. Maybe he knew that the first lap leader has never gone to victory lane here.
I'm just saying.
I don't know. We'll see. Steve?
Hey, Mike, the update from the pole sitter, Denny Hamlin. He's saying his car is a little bit tight on throttle. His spotter, Chris Lambert, had an interesting observation. He said, hey, in years past, get your right side tires on that third seam. That might help you turn.
Steve, also, this is where these drivers are going to start really getting a feel for what their race car is doing, because we're 2/3 of the way through this fuel run here at lap 24.
And we can watch Tony Stewart, and once he gets within the distance he is now, and maybe even a little further back, when he started feeling the effects of the draft. At 200 miles an hour down these straightaways, you really can feel the car really start to pick up when you pick up the draft of the car in front of you. Really helps you close right up to him.
And the weather is changing, Darrell. The last bit of full sunshine is on the San Bernardino Mountains to the east of us. The track is clouded, the ceiling is dropping, and Jeff Hammond, what's happening to the temperature and the climate and everybody's mood down there?
Well, right now, Mike, everybody can feel the depth change in the weather. It's gotten cloudy. You think about it, the very top of the green flag is hot and sunny. All of a sudden, the cloud covers come over. The temperature feels like it's dropped about maybe 10 or 12 degrees. I really expect a lot of these cars to start going through a transition as we come up to this first round of pit stop, and the crew chief's going to make a decision what to do to make kind of dial these cars in. And one other thing, guys, seeing these cars run so high up against the wall, think about the RPMs. Talked to engine builders earlier this morning, 9,700 RPM when you run up around the top and keep these things wound up. Big concern for a lot of engine builders today.
Well, you know, it's a shorter race. That's good news. It's 400 miles, not 500 like it used to be. But one of the things I'm noticing with Tony Stewart, and this is what happens on a low bank racetrack, high speed, you pick up aero push. When you finally get up to the back of that guy, it's really hard to make that pass because you can't keep the pressure on the nose of the car. You lose the nose of the car and you got to back out of the throttle. So you really got to work hard to get by somebody once you catch them.
Larry, we're getting late into this run. We're 27 laps in. We'll see pit stops lap 35 to 40. 3 cars stand out as being the quickest cars on the racetrack. Tony Stewart, wow, Jimmy Johnson, Jeff Gordon.
That supports what you were just talking about right there.
Yep.
But yeah, talking about Jeff Gordon in the 24 cars, we see Denny Hamlin trying to do that slide job on Tony Stewart right there. Jeff Gordon searching for speed in that 24 car all weekend long. I think they finally found it yesterday late in the practice. Started 21st. He has now cracked the top 10.
Tony Stewart thinks he's at Eldora. I mean, he is taking that thing in on the bottom and just sliding it right up in front of these guys. He did it to Harvick. He just did it to Hamlin. That really ticks a guy off, because it's like you taking advantage of me, you know, which is what racing's all about. But when you do that to a guy, he says, you know, it's saw Hamlin coming off forward, I couldn't wreck you. I couldn't stick that nose in there.
If you haven't been to Eldora, it's a half-mile dirt track in Ohio. Kyle Busch has opened it up by 1.1 seconds. His lead is shrinking to Tony Stewart now that Stewart has passed Busch's teammate, Denny Hamlin.
There's no question that Smoke's got a couple of tenths on everybody right now. He's the fastest car.
David Stremme has made a pit stop. That's a little early to be a scheduled stop. Mike Bliss is in the garage along with Scott Riggs, Reed Sorensen, and Brendan Gaughan.
I definitely think we'll see most of the drivers be a little conservative on this first run as far as not trying to stretch it too far, take a chance of running out of fuel, because this will be the first long run of the race.
30 laps complete. Next time by, Kyle Busch has led all but the first lap, which went to Denny Hamlin. Stick around, folks. Green flag pit stops coming up.
The Auto Club 400 on Fox, presented by 5 Hour Energy, is sponsored by AT&T, the nation's largest 4G network. AT&T, rethink possible. By McDonald's, I'm loving it. And by Napa, Napa know-how.
Green flag pit stops have begun. Krista?
Casey Kane's been complaining that the right rear of his race car is super loose. The team said expect it to be loose, but not this bad. Dick?
And Mark Martin, just a minor adjustment to that race car. The problems they've been having, believe it or not, wheel spin at high speed.
That can happen with these bumps on the racetrack, and if you have an aggressive package, it can cause you to spin the wheels. Krista?
Greg Biffle's car was loose to start the race, then it swung tight. An air pressure change, that's what they're going with to try to give him more grip. Matt?
Jimmy's biggest concern before the start was that his driver Kenton, because the track would change, it would swing the other way to loosen. That's exactly what happened. No grip on exit, big air pressure change and track bar adjustment for the 17.
Carl Edwards in, Montoya in. Here comes Kyle Busch and Denny Hamlin pitting together with Tony Stewart, Kevin Harvick, Jimmy Johnson, Jeff Gordon, Ryan Newman. All the leaders are in. Dick?
The decision as to whether to pit early or pit late was left up to Kyle Busch, the driver, who has been leading so many laps. Just minor adjustments to this car. It has been fast.
Denny Hamlin stops. He's saying that his car is tight on initial throttle. They will make a chassis adjustment on the number 11 of Denny Hamlin.
Jimmy Johnson done. So is Newman. Here comes Jeff Gordon firing out of his pit after 4 tires and fuel. Regan Smith, too fast exiting pit road. He's had to do a drive-through penalty.
A little bit slow on the 24 team. I'm not sure if they had a problem or not, but he's a little slow getting out of the box.
There you see the 34 car of David Reagan has not pitted. He's about the only driver on the lead lap that's not pitted, so he'll get that 1 point for leading at least 1 lap.
Second-generation racer.
Why is that important? If you want to try to stay in the top 35, every point is important.
And now Reagan will surrender the lead, come to pit road, and that will hand command of this race back to Kyle Busch, who last year led 151 laps of this race and finished 3rd.
Yeah, he got chased down late by the 29 and the 48. Looked like Kyle had the car to beat last year. We'll see how it goes today.
Before pit stops, Kyle's lead over Denny Hamlin was a little more than half a second. It is now 3 seconds.
Yeah, he did all that. The crew did a great job, but he did an awesome job getting on pit road too.
Take a look right there. The crew, what that is, that's the actual pit stop itself right there. You can see well over a second difference. Denny Hamlin did a little better job getting on and off pit road, but because that crew was quicker, there you see that 1 second that Kyle Busch was a little quicker than Denny Hamlin.
Yeah, Kyle came off the track really fast. He smoked the tires to get down to pit road speed. Pretty good at that.
We're caution free at 37 laps, and one of the big topics so far has been Tony Stewart dive bombing into the corner and then sliding up in front of the car he's trying to pass. So we put it all together for you.
And this is what we call a slide job. You see at the top up there, he goes by Denny Hamlin. Now you're going to see something with both drivers, Hamlin and Harvick. Neither one of them liked it. Hamlin right there said, I could put my nose back in there, buddy. And right here, you see Tony say, hey, dude, give me a break. I'm sorry about that. Kevin Harvick said, I'm going to shove you down the straightaway. I'm going to shove you in the wall. You do that to me again. Drivers don't like to be taken advantage of like that.
And we cycled through those green flag pit stops in a period of about 5 to 6 laps. Every driver taking 4 fresh tires.
Now, in Tony Stewart's defense, in each case where he made that pass, he drove away from the other car. He was quicker.
Tony did nothing wrong. It just aggravates the guy you do it to, because the guy you do it to says, I could cause you a problem if I wanted to.
Right. Going to be 3 wide as Kyle Busch laps teammates Landon Castle and Travis Kvapil.
That's a couple of drivers fighting to stay in that top 35 in owner points that Darrell was talking about. When we leave here, we go to the current top 35 in owner.
BK Racing crew chief Doug Richard said, if we can just come out of here with a top 20 finish, I'll be really happy.
No, we mentioned this a number of times, but I think those guys, where they started, at BK team, where they started and how they're doing, I think they're doing a pretty good job.
Joe Gibbs, the owner of the 18, the 11, and Joey Logano's 20. Hard to believe this is the only active track in Sprint Cup racing where he has not gone to victory lane in the Cup Series. Welcome back to the Auto Club 400 presented on Fox by 5 Hour Energy. You just saw the leader, Kyle Busch, go past. Right there, Denny Hamlin and Tony Stewart. Nose to tail. For second place, Greg Biffle is fourth, Jimmy Johnson fifth, Jeff Gordon and Kevin Harvick and Ryan Newman.
I think they tightened O'Harvick. Well, let's see who's going to do what here. Here's another dirt track guy going to do a slide job on the Kevin Harvick. You'll get mad about that pretty soon. Real mad. There he comes. He said, now look, your boss did that to me too.
Can't quite get to the rear bumper of Ryan Newman, though.
Fourth place battle. Jimmy Johnson carrying the colors of his charitable foundation on the number 48 Chevrolet this week. Johnson from nearby El Cajon. He and his wife Shanny do a lot of charitable work down in the San Diego area and elsewhere. And this is a home game. You walk through the grandstand here or behind the grandstand on the way to the booth. No other racetrack do you see so many people wearing Jimmy Johnson colors as right here in his native Southern California.
You know, I really think, you know, now that the penalty, Chris, you got something on the 48?
Yeah, Darrell, Jimmy Johnson started this race. He said the higher on the track he got, the looser he got. You know, he's been pleased with the car all weekend, but they've been surprised that they just haven't had the speed they thought they should. Well, he has speed now, but he's still trying to find that handling. They made a pretty major adjustment on that stop. 2 rounds in that race car.
Well, let's see if it's deja vu all over again between Tony Stewart and Denny Hamlin.
Hamlin's going to be ready for it this time.
Stewart goes low.
Well, this is not a slide job here. This is just you're one groove and I'm another. Not so much a slide job here. It's that when you overdrive the corner and slide up in front of a guy. That's a slide job.
Catching Hamlin 1 lap ago, Stewart was 2/10 quicker. Maybe 2/10 isn't quite enough.
But it's almost like, Darrell, when another driver catches a driver like Tony Stewart did, now it looks like he's going to complete the pass here because he kind of takes your line away. It just takes you a while, I think, to set him up, doesn't it?
Well, the guy, Denny Hamlin, knows that Tony is overdriving his car to make that pass. And I know what Tony would be saying, and I know what Hamlin's probably saying. Why do you want to take a chance like that this early in the race? But then remember, it might rain.
Yeah, a look to the northwest. The clouds are advancing. Mount Baldy no longer visible to the near northwest. And we're 48 laps in, 152 to go.
What we just saw with Denny Hamlin in the 11 coming through 3 and 4 is exactly what Michael Waltrip was talking about. Denny was all the way down on the flat, looking for a little bit more grip down there through 3 and 4.
He's going to make a super duper slide job from the very bottom of the apron all the way to the wall.
Stewart to second. Jeff Gordon and point leader Greg Biffle battle for 5th.
I think they made some nice adjustments on that 24 car on that round of pit stops. He wasn't all that good there when the race started, but he looks like he's got his car tightened up coming to the front.
You know, when you look at Jeff Gordon in the 24 car sitting 23rd in points, I think that's so artificial. The engine failure in the Daytona 500. Last week at Bristol had a top 5 run going, gets his tire cut down by the exhaust pipe on his teammate Dale Earnhardt Jr.
Yeah, Casey Kane's same way, Larry. I mean, we know that those cars are fast. We know they're great drivers. Casey Kane and Jeff Gordon both. They just had some bad racing luck to begin to start the season with.
Mark Martin started 3rd. He is running in a comfortable 11th right now in the 55.
I don't know how comfortable he is, though, Mike. I got a note a little bit ago that he was too loose to run the bottom and too tight to run the top. And so Mark is just really fishing around right now, trying to find some place where the car is good. But look at this shot. Watch his eyes. He'll glance up at the mirror, see him working the wheel, see him bouncing around a little in the seat. He's taking a look down at his gauges. Coming up off the corner, he ought to look back, see if it's clear. There you go. And now here you go. Watch him. He's going to do the hip hop down the back straightaway, hitting through those bumps.
Darrell, I love how it drives him down in the seat right there, entering the corner over 200 miles an hour and only 14 degrees of banking, which is not much banking.
Plus, I like that they've added this piece right here to his side headrest to limit the amount of bouncing around back and forth that your head goes through as you roll through the banking here. Nice. Kyle Busch has led 50 laps so far.
The Auto Club 400, presented by 5 Hour Energy, is sponsored by Budweiser. Great times are waiting. Grab some buds. 45 laps from halfway in Fontana, California. The Auto Club 400 with Kyle Busch, your leader. He's led all but 1 lap so far. And a good time for an AT&T race break with Michael Waltrip, Chris Myers from our Hollywood Hotel here in Southern California, where the rain could be a factor. Remember, the race is official at the halfway point. At the start of the race, Brad Keselowski on his radio talking to his crew chief, talking about, hey, we're going to at least get to 100 laps, and that's key, Michael.
Yeah, and you can see there, Brad's taking the short way around this place, down off the apron. There's a sense of urgency for all these guys, though, Chris. Brad started back in the 17th spot. He's been able to race his way up toward the top 10, but not making the progress he wants. These guys need a caution. They want to work on their cars and get reset, but it's not happening.
And Dale Earnhardt Jr. all moving at a fast clip inside the top 10. Coming into the race, he was the only Hendrick Motorsports car ranking in the top 10 in points.
And you know, you got to respect what Junior's doing this year. Look how rough this track is. He's bouncing around in there, but consistently running inside the top 10 up front every week. Led a lot of laps this year, so this is a good run for Junior.
And a lot of radio chatter talking about his car status. Meanwhile, Jeff Gordon has moved up 16 spots. He's had success here inside the top 5.
Yeah, this guy is coming. He's really fast. He's driven up inside the top 5, like you said. Another guy going the other way is Kasey Kahne. I talked about before the race, I liked Kasey Kahne. I thought he would be a factor today. He's fallen back. I talked to him before the race. He said, my car might be a little bit too tight early because I can't take a chance on crashing again. When I get it freed up and we get strung out, then I'm going to come to the front. Be interesting to see if he's right or not.
And one of the things Jeff Gordon said was, just because you can take the high group here doesn't mean you can handle in and out of the pits or some of the other moves. It's going to be a mystery much of the afternoon.
They've been dicing it up, haven't they? Tony Stewart and Kevin Harvick kind of arguing over space. We saw the same thing with Denny Hamlin. A lot of action going on. I love this shot from Mark Martin. Look at those eyes. He is so into what he's doing. Look in that mirror and making sure he's not cutting anybody off, trying to communicate with the crew. There's so many things these drivers are doing inside the cockpit of these cars.
And let's see how the drivers are doing in the AT&T Fastest Driver Challenge here. You can text FAST to 34763 or go to AT&TFastestDriver.com for a chance to win 4Gs. Brought to you by the nation's largest 4G network, Rethink Possible. And let's return as we see Kevin Harvick and Greg Biffle going by each other to Mike Joy upstairs. Mike, Joe Gibbs Racing trying to win their first Cup race here ever at this speedway.
Right, Chris, it'll be Gibbs' first win. In fact, Toyota is still winless here in 22 starts in the Cup Series. We've had one round of green flag pit stops, which Jeff Hammond has now had a chance to analyze.
Yeah, Mike, right now we're sitting there looking at Kevin Harvick, but what I noticed in that first pit stop when they come in, watch how everybody worked together. This team right now, they look like they were just, one solid group all the way around. All of a sudden they're down on the right side. You see them come around and Jack Man hits the stop. It comes up, and all of a sudden you see the two front rear tire changes. They're done and they're out of there. Everybody's really happy. A good solid stop at 13.3. That's how you keep the driver up front, and that's how you keep them happy.
Made the kick save on that tire that came off to send it back to the pit wall instead of it maybe rolling away.
Had a small battle there between the 24 and the 48 for just a little time. Then Jimmy Johnson decided Jeff a little quicker than him, let him go.
But I think, Mike, what we're seeing is just like what we saw before the last set of green flag pit stops. A few drivers going to the forefront. Their cars seem to be staying with them. Tony Stewart being one, Jeff Gordon in that 24 being the other.
Good point. Darrell, what a contrast to last week when every time we looked up there were two cars side by side and it was always teammates battling each other hard on the half mile at Bristol.
Well, you know, teammates, they got access to the same information. And with this new fuel injection system and the ability to look at another driver's track, how he drives a corner, how he brakes, how he gets on the gas, I think we're going to see that more. Of sharing information whether they want to or not.
I think so too.
And a lot of it has to do with driving style.
Let's go back to 10th place and Carl Edwards Ford. Here's Steve.
Yeah, Mike, Carl Edwards has not been able to make a ton of progress. He said it's slick in 1 and 2. It's sliding the nose. I can't get the front to grip much at all.
And we
heard that out of so many drivers in practice yesterday that, yeah, the rear of the car feels like it's stuck pretty good, but when I turn the steering wheel, the front tires aren't responding.
A look to the west shows brighter skies, but rain to the northwest about 10 miles out as we race in Fontana. Race fans, join the Dew Crew on Facebook and take part in real decisions affecting the 88 team. Get a special look behind the scenes, earn points, win exclusive prizes and gear. Joined by March 30th for a chance to win Dale's fire suit from today's race. Get the Dew Crew app now, only on Facebook. Second round of green flag pit stops. We've been green all the way so far, Dick.
And Mark Martin on your right is pitting a bit earlier than everybody else. A minor chassis adjustment to the car. He had been running an 11th spot.
Tough break for Jamie McMurray, missing a lug nut. He's got to come back in as Dale Jr. rolls into his pit. Krista?
Mike, what he was talking about on that last run, he said finally the rear end is starting to get underneath the car, but I've got to move around to find that rear grip. Crew Chief Steve Letarte said, we will get it for you.
Kasey Kahne's in, A.J. Allmendinger, Joey Logano in the pit lane.
See that 18, he gets on pit road.
Marcus Ambrose, Bobby Labonte, and here's Kyle Busch bringing Tony Stewart with him down pit road with Dave Blaney, Paul Menard, David Rudiman. Allmendinger really locked the brakes up getting onto pit road. Completes his stop. Here's Dick.
And Kyle Busch had to drive around Marcus Ambrose's car in order to get into his pit. He's parked a little bit crooked in here, but that's not a problem. Tony Stewart also on the way into his pit road.
A little bit of a longer time on that left rear of the 29 of Harvick. He said the car was a little bit worse on that run, although he changed his line. One reason why they lost him that time, they pulled a spring rubber to try to help him on the racetrack.
Denny Hamlin led another lap as Brad Keselowski completed his stop. Jeff Gordon, the new leader. Here's Steve. Oh, excuse me. Coming down pit road is Hamlin. Newman comes into his pit. Matt.
Ryan Newman said we need to take a look at the grill. See, there's debris. The water had climbed up to 230 degrees. The car too free on exit. He waved off the chassis adjustment, Steve.
Well, Matt, Denny Hamlin's car really hasn't changed much since the start of the race. They're going to make another chassis adjustment. He said it's a little bit better, but it's still tight. Matt.
Good stop for Matt Kenseth so far. He says 40% through the corner. The car is tight, but then it gets way too free on exit. Significant air pressure and slight chassis adjustment for Kenseth.
Bobby Labonte too fast exiting pit road as Jeff Gordon comes to the pit lane. He's already led a lap today. And Jimmy Johnson becomes the new race leader.
What this set of green flag pit stops do, what it'll do for them, Dick, is it puts them where they can get to halfway.
And that's the game plan for absolutely everybody, Larry. They are all thinking halfway. A minor adjustment for Jeff Gordon, who is loose in and out of the corners as well. He is motored to the lead from his 21st starting position today.
There is a line, no, make that a wall of rain about 10 to 12 miles to the west of us, of which all the spotters on the roof are very aware. As Jimmy Johnson comes down pit road, and he'll give the lead back to Kyle Busch. Krista?
Well, we know how important bonus points are. Jimmy Johnson staying out to lead that lap, getting those important points. They have not found the handling they want on this car. They made an adjustment on the left side of the car the last stop. This time, rounds on the right side. Crew Chief Chad Knaus telling his driver, just hang in there. We will get you fixed up. I will let you find your rhythm.
Thanks, Krista. Joey Logano down pit road. And Kyle Busch once again is the leader. The reason the halfway point of this race is important is that even if it rains, NASCAR has the option of waiting out the rain and restarting the race. But the important thing is once we get past the halfway point, this race will be over today. One way or another, we would not come back tomorrow.
Well, if it rains 10, 15 miles away and it's only moving 5 or 6 miles an hour, we got it.
29 laps to that halfway point. Martin Truex Jr., Brad Keselowski. Truex has NHRA star Ron Capps in his pit this weekend holding the signboard. And met Ron's son this morning, who looks to be about 5 years old. He's at his very first NASCAR race. In the garage, his eyes were as big as saucers. He was having a great time.
Yeah.
I think look at those two drivers. That just shows you the difference in Auto Club Speedway at 2 miles and Bristol at a half mile. Keselowski, the winner from last week, Martin Truex Jr. in that 56, finished a strong third for Michael Waltrip Racing.
This racetrack, you have to have your act together. You got to have horsepower. You got to have aerodynamics. You got to have handling, and you have to have an aggressive driver. And that's what it takes to be good at this place.
Kyle Busch has led all but 4 laps. Denny Hamlin led twice. Jimmy Johnson and Jeff Gordon once each for 1 lap at a time. As Kyle tries to give Joe Gibbs and Toyota its first win here.
These two guys right here have been going at each other quite a bit.
Yeah, Dale Jr. Chevrolet and Greg Biffle's Ford battle back and forth. Right now it's for 6th place. They're about 16 seconds back of the leader.
Well, that's two drivers that very badly wants to win a race. Greg Biffle hadn't won since the fall of 2010. Dale Earnhardt Jr. hadn't won since June of 2008.
But they're doing what they're doing what they've been doing every week. They're running 5th, 6th, 7th back in there. They're getting, you know, good top 10 finishes, but they need to get up there and win some races.
Carl Edwards in the 99 started 12th. He's running 10th, having difficulty advancing.
It just reported it is raining at the airport, bud. Raining at the airport. I don't have a flight scheduled for today, so should be all right.
Now that's
he just
Bob
wants
Osborne.
to continue to mess with Bob Osborne as crew chief.
I don't know who messes with. I don't know if Bob's messing with Carl or Carl's messing with Bob, but they're always playing games.
Bob's talking about the Ontario, California airport, which is only about 6 or 7 miles away. We're trying to get to 200 laps, 400 miles. Are we racing the track or are we racing the rain?
The Auto Club 400, presented by 5 Hour Energy, is sponsored by Chevrolet and their award-winning cars, trucks, and crossovers.
Let's have a look at our 5-hour energy race summary. Kyle Busch has led all but 4 laps today. We've not had a caution flag, so he has been lapping cars at will. 21 on the lead lap right now. The last of those is Montoya. 5 lead changes, most of those occurring during green flag pit stops.
How do you watch? What if you were sitting down there by the start finish line? Those cars are going by that fast. It'd break your neck trying to watch them. Whoa, whoa, whoa! Look at that. That's 200 mile an hour.
Jamie McMurray is in. He had a loose or a missing lug nut earlier. Had to make a second stop on pit road during that last exchange, and now he's back in.
Yeah, what would concern me if he had a loose wheel just a little bit ago is they possibly got some lug stud issues, felt the vibration, had to come back to pit road.
Well, the Interstate Batteries Toyota has been flawless as Kyle Busch tries to give his car owner Joe Gibbs and Toyota their first ever victory at Auto Club Speedway. But Tony Stewart right now is 0.2 of a second a lap faster than Kyle and has got to close down to 1 second.
Here's what I see. Kyle is really good on this. When he comes against 4 tires, he really takes off. Tony, it takes a few laps for his car to come in and he can start making up time. That's going to work in Kyle's favor if we don't get any late cautions. I don't know about Tony. If it stays green, it might pay off for him.
How about Denny Hamlin? Now, Hamlin led all categories of practice, won the pole and runs in 3rd. Jimmy Johnson has such a stellar record at this track. His average finish of 4.5 in all the races he's run here is his best record at any track we run on.
And with the penalty at Daytona, this is truly the first weekend that they have been controversial free. Everything's good to go now. They won the appeal.
Jeff Gordon is the biggest mover in this race. He started back in 21st. He's running in 5th. Dale Jr. has come up to 6th from 14th. Krista?
Well, and normally, Mike, 14th wouldn't be anything to write home about, but Steve Letarte said we were so bad qualifying here last year that we just wanted to get in that top 15. When Junior qualified 14th, Steve told his driver, we can do something with that, and he certainly has today. They are on the move.
And we heard Junior yesterday afternoon, last practice, suggesting some things to do to the car, which were pretty major changes. But apparently Letarte was able to get it done because that car looks a lot better today than it did in final practice yesterday.
It does. Ryan Newman 7th, Greg Biffle 8th, and Carl Edwards 9th. Biffle started 4th. He's drifted back to 8th. Any concerns there?
Well, what it tells me is they maybe are not making the adjustments for Greg keeping up with this racetrack. And right now, we're only 17 laps away from pit stops and halfway.
I think these guys are in a box, so I think they're afraid to do too much and lose time on pit road, knowing the rain's coming.
Now here's Kevin Harvick, who has slid back to 10th. Why, Jeff Hammond?
Yeah, Mike, we'll take a quick look right here. The bottom stop was the first stop for me was flawless, and the guys did an excellent job. Now the second stop when they came in, everything was good on the right side, but when they came around to the left side, the main thing you got to watch, folks, watch the tire changer in the rear. At the bottom of the screen right now, he is trying to pull a rubber out to make that car free it up a little bit to try to get Kevin a little bit better as far as that's concerned. Now we got
lead change. Stewart to the front. Kyle comes right back to the bottom. Montoya just ahead. Who's going to have this into turn 1?
Looks like Stewart's got the best line on the outside right there. And his car, Stewart's car after about 10, 15 laps really comes alive. It's like he hits the afterburner. Kyle, on the other hand, he starts to lose a little speed after about 10 or 15 laps.
And we know one advantage that Kyle Busch has had is the way he's been getting on the pit road during his green flag pit stops.
He's been smoking them on pit road.
Now here is Kyle having difficulty lapping Montoya, who's really working hard to stay on the lead lap. And that opened the door, or rather, that kept that door closed, and here came Stewart.
Yeah, well, it broke Kyle's momentum there just enough that Tony was able to chase him down. And here comes smoke. Look how much faster. Closing fast because Kyle had to get out of the gas to stay off of Montoya.
Yeah, Stewart came into the corner 10 to 12 miles an hour faster, had to whoa up, not sure which way Kyle was going to go on Montoya, and it finally settled out in favor of Stewart, who now leads Kyle Busch by half a second. Not a lot of room right there, was there? Tony Stewart trying to drive away and drive toward halfway in California.
The Auto Club 400 presented by 5 Hour Energy is sponsored by Diet Mountain Dew. Yeah, it tastes that good. By Ford, proud sponsor of NASCAR. By KFC, come in today and taste why fresh is better. And by Goodyear, the official tire of NASCAR.
Caution free in Fontana. Tony Stewart leading. Here's your Ford F-150 EcoBoost track facts for today. Roush Fenway has the most NASCAR wins here, 15. Matt Kenseth was the last Ford winner at this track 2 years ago, and Rusty Wallace, the oldest winner at this racetrack. He was 44 when he drove a Penske Ford into victory lane. It's Tony Stewart, your leader. Kyle Busch has fallen 1.8 seconds back of Stewart.
I'm not so sure, Mike. I can't get a good look at that 18 car, but I think he may have scraped the wall at some point here in the last little bit. But one thing I'm noticing, if he did, it's like he's regrouped. And now his lap times are actually a little bit better than Tony Stewart's. So I'm not sure if he got in the wall and he had to slow down a little bit to see if there's any damage. And now he's going to drive back up there and see if he can chase Stewart down.
Let's have a look at this. Watch where it says Auto Club Speedway. That ball is white.
Yeah,
and
there you
now
go.
It's not.
He didn't pound it. He just kind of scraped it. But I think that really broke his focus, broke his momentum. And I think now, as I watch the lap times, he's starting to pull back up on this Tony just a little bit. I think he realized the car's okay. I can go back to driving hard.
Yeah, he's keeping tempo now with Tony Stewart. You can see it on the intervals right there over the last 3 laps.
Casey Mears making an unscheduled stop. In the garage, Josh Wise and Michael McDowell now joining David Stremme, Mike Bliss out of the race, Scott Riggs, Reed Sorensen, and Brendan Gaughan.
But we're getting real close to what we're going to see as green flag pit stops. In fact, I think I'm seeing A.J. Allmendinger, the 22 car, on pit road. So we're within about 5-6 laps of those stops, 6 laps of halfway right now.
And the clouds and the rain have stopped advancing on Auto Club Speedway. They're still off to the west about 6 to 10 miles. but we're starting to see the mountains again, which means that this is lifting and may stay away.
I hate to bring it up, but you know,
go ahead.
The old vortex theory could just be working it really well today.
Scientists debunk it, but the anecdotal evidence says that when cars are racing around the track creating heat and a funnel of air, the rain stays away. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
I'm right there with you, brother.
5 laps to halfway. Tony Stewart's lead over Kyle Busch, 2 seconds. As he works past David Reagan, Stewart has 2 wins in rain-shortened races, Loudon, New Hampshire, and Michigan, both in 2000. But let's not get the wipers and the rain tires out just yet. It's because we don't have any. We're going to try to go the distance, which is 200 laps, 400 miles today.
And when I look at our top 3 drivers, Stewart, Kyle Busch, and Denny Hamlin, they pretty much have been on the same schedule as far as green flag stops. I anticipate around 102 or 103 they'll be on pit road.
There's Martin Truex Jr. Battling Casey Kane. Michael Caine is back there in 13th after qualifying 5th. Part of the plan?
Yeah, you know, he talked about having a tight car early so that he didn't get in a bind. He wanted to make sure he survived today. Thought he could free that car up and drive it toward the front. We haven't seen him have a chance to really do that yet. But a car that is beginning to make a move back toward the front, like Darrell said, Kyle Busch. He ran into the wall, and he's going faster, Darrell.
Sometimes, you know, you realign things a little bit, and it makes the car go faster. Push that fender in a little bit, bump that nose out.
Now Marcus Ambrose in the 9. He is in 19th place. He's the first car 1 lap down to race leader Tony Stewart. That's pole sitter Denny Hamlin now in 2nd. His teammate Kyle Busch 3rd. Jimmy Johnson, Jeff Gordon the top 5.
Yeah, with only 18 drivers on the lead lap, being that first driver 1 lap down is huge. Should we get that caution, you get the free pass, get back on the lead lap.
We saw Kyle Busch get into the wall down in 3 and 4. It takes a driver a few laps. Sometimes it'll knock the toe off a little bit, and it'll change the position of your steering wheel. Sometimes it'll feel a little different to you for a lap or 2. You have to adjust to what happened to the car, and then you can get back to concentrating, focusing, and get back doing your job.
Well, the last time we saw Carl Edwards in the 99, he was stuck back in 10th and could advance no further. But Steve, now he's up to 7th and closing.
Yeah, Mike, he just said the balance on this run is pretty good. He has started to move forward. They're going to take 4 tires, make a track bar adjustment, and make a small air pressure adjustment, but they are moving forward.
You know, looking at Carl Edwards in that 99 car, he amazes me at the things that he does outside of driving a race car. This past Wednesday, Carl was in Fort Worth, Texas, and he trained with the SWAT team there, did live range shooting, but rappelling up and down an 8-story building. He's not afraid to try anything one time.
Pit stops beginning with Jeff Burton. Cat Chevy. We have not had a caution flag in these first 99 laps. Well, it's been a while since that's happened. Might have been Texas last fall. We had a long green flag run to start the race.
And here we come to lap 100, and
the cross flags will be a welcome sight for everyone in the NASCAR garage area, and there they are.
Halfway this time, halfway.
That means that even if this race becomes rain delayed, one way or another, it will become official today.
Just heard the crew chief ask for water temp. You'd say, well, why would he want to know that right now? Might be able to stick a piece of tape on that grill. If it's not running hot, a little tape on the grill here would create some more downforce and better straightaway speed. He may be just looking for a little adjustment he can make as we get into the latter part of the race.
Martin Truex in along with Regan Smith as green flag stops get going here in earnest. Clint Boyer is in as well. Now that we've crossed through halfway, Marcus Ambrose in.
We've seen a lot of mistakes made by drivers and pit crews on these green flag stops. Steve, how about Martin Truex Jr.?
Well, there he's saying my car is a little bit tight. And he said it's also tight to get around the other guys. 4 tires and an air pressure adjustment. Krista?
Steve, a loose race car is what Clint Boyer has been dealing with most of the day. They made slight adjustments throughout the day to try to get him a little tightened up.
Kevin Harvick's in along with Greg Biffle, Matt.
Tremendous amount of brake dust, Mike, off those front wheels. Harvick's in the car, not responding like practice. Way too free on exit. Big air pressure change for Harvick. Krista?
Just like DW called, tape on the grill. That's what Greg Biffle wants to get that downforce. He also wants the track bar up.
Casey Kane, Mark Martin, and Brad Keselowski also in. Matt?
And the service already completed on Kenzen. Absolutely no grip, making headway. Big air pressure change from Jimmy Finnegan, the guys.
Montoya pits. Here comes Dale Earnhardt Jr. along with Joey Logano and Ryan Newman. Krista. Oh, Matt, excuse me.
And Ryan Newman was reporting possibly sprinkles over in turn 2. He says we're making a lot of headway on this 39 machine, but he still needs it snugged up. Krista.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. has been complaining of no rear grip. The Junior Nation is going to love this. He said, my car is good now.
Thanks, Krista. Brad Keselowski too fast entering the pits. He'll get a drive-through penalty. In last year's race, there were only 2 speeding penalties the whole race. Today, we've already had 4. Regan Smith, Bobby Labonte, Joey Logano, and now Keselowski. Carl Edwards, Paul Menard, both on pit road. Here's Steve.
Carl Edwards saying that his car has gotten better. Now, Mike, the adjustments this time, 4 tires, a packet full of fuel. They're going to make an air pressure adjustment, and they're going to make a track bar adjustment for Carl Edwards. He's saying the balance on his race car is getting better. They also take off a windshield tear off. 4 tires for Carl Edwards.
So the front 5 have not pitted. Tony Stewart, Denny Hamlin, Kyle Busch, Jimmy Johnson, and Jeff Gordon.
When I watched the lap times of Stewart and Hamlin running second, Hamlin was cutting into Stewart's lead a little bit. It's almost like Stewart looked back and said, whoop, think I'll pick the pace up a little bit. Yep. He picked up a couple of tenths.
J.J. Yeley, too fast entering pit road.
And Mike, I think now that we're past halfway, a lot of these drivers and their crews are thinking, what can we do to get to the end of this race now? It's honestly, after this stop, it's a 2-stop race to the end.
Here are the leaders. Stewart, Hamlin, and Busch. 1, 2, 3. Coming down pit road. Who will get out there first as Jimmy Johnson gets the lead? Dick?
Well, Tony Stewart on the right-hand side of your screen. Just some minor changes in that car. They do not want to change it very much. He would like to loosen it up a little bit, but they're afraid to mess up the middle. Steve.
Well, Dick, Denny Hamlin's car has gotten a little bit better and a little bit better. His car started out tight. He said, just make a little bit more of an adjustment. We're going the right direction. 4 tires for Denny Hamlin.
So only Jimmy Johnson and his Hendrick teammate Jeff Gordon remain on the racetrack. Everyone else has made this pit stop between lap 100 and lap 105. Now, also not yet pitting A.J. Allmendinger was one of the first in, so they've all been in. Krista.
Mike, Denny Hamlin going in the right direction. Well, so is Jimmy Johnson. They've been making big adjustments. 2 rounds on each of the last stops. A smaller adjustment here. They are moving forward, and that's what they want. Is it's a 4-tire change for Jimmy Johnson.
Kenny Schrader makes his stop along with the 2 BK cars. Landon Castle's car stopped on pit road. Looks like they may try to turn him into the garage area.
Well, we've run over 200 miles here, as we've seen over 200 miles per hour, a lot of RPM. You go that long, it starts getting a little bit tough on these engines.
Yeah, that old engine tongue will start coming out that tailpipe, tapping you on the shoulder and say, hey, man, give me a break. Not that kind of break.
After leading for the 2nd time today, Jeff Gordon comes to pit road. Dick?
And the fact that he has been able to stretch his fuel to this point, Mike, may prove important later in the day as the rain comes nearer. They're going to try to get the car so that it will run better in the bottom. The bottom lane is where Jeff Gordon says he is being beat.
Jeff about took his gas man there back out on the racetrack with him. He was trying to get every bit of fuel that he possibly could. Let's take a look at it here. See, they're changing the left side tires, trying to pack that car of Jeff Gordon's full of Sunoco race fuel, and he just didn't get it out barely at the last minute.
Now, look at the white line.
Yeah.
That results in a penalty because equipment was removed from the pit box.
Equipment here. Got to do a stop and go.
Yep.
You want to do it? Right away as soon as you can.
So,
Looks
Mike,
like
that's
everybody's
about
okay.
7 mistakes we've seen made.
Yep.
5 drivers speeding, Jamie McMurray with loose lug nuts, and now Jeff Gordon dragging equipment from his pits.
Will that be a stop and go or a drive-through penalty?
I think that's a drive-through.
Drive-through penalty.
Yeah.
You just have to maintain pit road speed all the way down pit road.
Tony Stewart back in command. He has led 21 laps so far today.
We welcome you back live to Fontana, California, in time for an AT&T mid-race report where Tony Stewart leads Denny Hamlin. Kyle Busch has led the most laps so far in this race. This is the 23rd race here at this track. We have never had a range-shortened race, and it looks like so far dodging the raindrops. Also, caution-free so far. 4 cautions, the fewest at this point, but let's see who some of our people are looking at. Darrell, we'll start with you.
Yeah, you know, I picked him at the beginning, Kyle Busch. Got in a little trouble, got in the wall, got it fixed. My man's still on target. I think he's going to win it.
I like Denny Hamlin. He won everything we had yesterday. He's the fastest car here. Thought he was going to be able to drive up to the front and hold them off all day long. That isn't working, but watch for Denny to rebound here in the second half.
Michael, we run over half this race, caution-free, 3 sets of green flag pit stops. You better eliminate mistakes like Jeff Gordon just had. Dick Berggren.
Tony Stewart has won 6 of the last 14 in these NASCAR Sprint Cup races. His crew today, as has been the driver, absolutely perfect. Over-the-wall crew together for the last 3 years, Mike.
5-time series champion Jimmie Johnson has won here 5 times. He's from El Cajon, Chris. Home field advantage for Johnson.
And Mike Kevin Harvick, the California closer last year in this race, came in second in points, searching for his first win, moving up to 6th, and in striking distance if the weather is able to hold out. That's our mid-race report. Let's rejoin the guys in the booth. And Mike, the strategy adjustment, certainly one because of the weather, has changed and is continuing to change.
Well, it's a whole new race, Chris, as you point out. We were racing to halfway. Now, the first part of this storm has stayed to the north of us, away from the speedway.
Hey, Mikey.
But it's a whole new game as Hamlin closes in on Tony Stewart for the lead.
Look at you golfing, buddy. Look at him go.
I'm telling you, that boy's on a mission, Darrell. You talk to him, you know. He's so focused. He's so into what he's doing. Loves his new crew chief. He's got a fast car.
Yeah, you know what I'd like to see? I'd like to see the pole holder win a race every now and then.
Okay.
And you think about it, his new crew chief was the crew chief that was with Tony Stewart in the 14 car when they won that 5 races and championship last year.
We assumed incorrectly on the penalty for Jeff Gordon. Each team, each crew chief has a card that NASCAR hands out that describes all of the pit road penalties. We have one up here in the booth. And reviewing it, when you pull out of the pit and you drag equipment out with you, it is a stop and go penalty under the green flag. That's what Jeff Gordon had to do, and of course that is a lot more damaging than just a drive-through penalty. He is now 18th, 1 lap down. Tony Stewart leads by half a second in the Auto Club 400.
The Auto Club 400, presented by 5 Hour Energy, is sponsored by Sprint, proud sponsor of the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series.
121 laps complete under green. Jeff Hammond standing just inside turn number 4, keeping the Orange Cohen Company there. And watching the attitude of these cars as they come off the corner, as Tony Stewart leads Denny Hamlin by 1 second, Kyle Busch by 5 seconds. This is the longest ever stretch of green flag racing at Auto Club Speedway. 122 laps caution-free so far. Last time we had a caution-free Sprint Cup race was October of 2002 at Talladega. Dale Jr. went to victory lane.
I just continue to look at Tony Stewart, and as we're riding with Clint Boyer now in the 15 car, Clint's back in the 14th position. But back to Tony Stewart. Think back to August of last year. He had not won a race in 2011. He said, "We do not belong in the chase." We will not do a service to our race team being there. He makes the chase barely, wins 5 races, wins a championship, and look, he's picked up right where he left off the end of last year.
And I have inquired across the board, team members, other competitors, what do you think made the difference? And every one of them, to a man, said,
Rain down here at 3. Don't stop the rain at 3.
We got weather here, boys.
Raindrops in turn number 3 put us under caution for the very first time today. Here's Jimmie Johnson. Let's see what we see on the lens of the Lowe's onboard camera.
There you go.
There it is.
Okay, Mr. Crew Chief Larry Mike Reynolds, what are we going to do? We got some rain coming. We need some tires if they go back. We got to stay out, right?
Well, I think we do, as long as it's raining, Michael. Now, if I'm maybe Martin Truex Jr., Mark Martin, Casey Kane, Matt Kenseth, Clint Boyer, 3 of those Michael Waltrip race cars, I maybe possibly come on in, get my tires, get my fuel, and then see what happens from there.
What have we seen most of this year? Staying out on the old tires. Track position is king. Stay out on old tires, and you probably got a good shot at hanging on to the lead.
But this is the most we've seen those tires fall off, Darrell. This is old school racing. You get a few laps on those tires, you start to slip and slide, things fall apart on you.
Well, the first caution of the day comes with 15 cars on the lead lap, and A.J. Allmendinger will get the Aaron's lucky dog. You don't need credit. All you need is Aaron's. So when we restart, it'll be 16 cars on the lead lap.
Yeah, well, if I'm probably one of these drivers or crew chiefs or spotters, and I'm looking out turn 3 and 4, especially in the top 5 or so, just not sure about hitting pit road just yet.
I just don't see how you can do that. And I'll just refer back to the thing about Darlington last year, one of the hardest racetracks we have on tires. And Regan Smith stayed out on old tires, won the race, and we've seen that happen a number of times already this year.
Well, some of these leaders must think the rain is going to... Oh, Stewart! He threw the feint on Denny Hamlin, and I don't know if Hamlin was committed or not, but boy, Stewart sure gave it the old drop, dive, and recover right there.
I think old Smoke's been using every trick in his bag today.
I think so, too. Krista.
Jimmie Johnson and Chad Knaus want to just keep knocking out these little changes. They're making improvements on the track. They want it to continue. Jimmie saying the higher he goes on the track, the looser he gets. Steve?
Well, Krista, the 11 car was committed to pit road. Crew Chief Darian Grubb telling Denny, I think this is just a few drops. The heavy stuff's not going to come through for a while. Again, just a little bit tight in the center for the 11 car of Denny Hamlin.
Well, all of those drivers are banking that we're going to go back racing.
Let's see, is it raining or is it not? Here comes Stewart into the pits.
But Hamlin is pretty committed right there. I mean, he's down there. He's pretty committed. If anybody got snookered, it might be the 18 car not deciding what to do.
There's another look at it.
You see Hamlin, there's no question in his mind he's coming.
And one driver I saw that seemed like he was not committed, he was not playing their games, Jeff Gordon in that 24, he looked like he definitely was going to stay out, and he did.
And another miscue on pit road. A tire rolled away from Matt Kenseth's pit. Penalty for the 17.
Urgency.
Rain here at the Auto Club 400 with 73 laps to go as we welcome you back live to NASCAR on Fox in the Hollywood Hotel with Michael Waltrip, Chris Myers, our storm scout, Rick Dickert, keeping an eye on things at the weather map, our expansive Hollywood Hotel weather center where the green is not good. Hey, fortunate, Rick, we've even been able to run this much. Give us the latest.
Yeah, very fortunate. You could see the leading edge of this major Pacific storm just starting to move across the speedway. Generally light to moderate rain. There's a speedway. Here's the band that's moving through Fontana now. More of the same. I'd say another 15 or 20 minutes of this light shower activity. Looks like there's a little break there, but beyond it, all this activity is moving from the west towards the east and slowly from the south to the north. So it will gradually move over the speedway. This is just the leading edge of it. So pretty much more of the same in terms of what they're seeing out there now for the next 15 or 20.
All right, then it gets heavy.
It will definitely get heavy. The atmosphere is going to moisten up. The rain will likely increase over the next hour or so. And then once this band moves over, it's going to be raining pretty consistently.
As we've mentioned, we've never had a rain-shortened race here in California. There have been postponements and races that have been carried over and completed. So we may be looking at that based on the next 15 or 20 minutes as the rain continues to fall rather lightly now. Tony Stewart, your leader over Kyle Busch. Kyle has led the most laps today, 80. Tony Stewart, 40+. Dale Earnhardt Jr. currently running third. And let's take a look at the lead changes and leaders. Kyle Busch right off the bat here goes in front of pole sitter Denny Hamlin to establish the lead. And then we saw Tony Stewart make a nice move on Kevin Harvick, kind of dipping down and moving back. Let's listen.
If he'd have worked with me a little bit, I wouldn't be trying to screw him over right now. Sorry, we're good here.
That was Tony Stewart.
Yeah, you can see Tony had his hand out the window like, what's wrong with you, Kevin? I need you to work with me. I need some space. He didn't like what Tony did to Kevin. Didn't like it, neither did Tony.
Meanwhile, Kyle Busch did have the lead, but Tony Stewart took that lead, lap 85. And at that point, we thought that, hey, get halfway, get official, as we see Jimmy Johnson. Whoa. His car is smoking.
Yeah, what's going on there? That's got to be an engine problem of some sort.
Fluid or oil coming out?
Yeah, that looks like it's something under the hood, and the smoke's coming out the back of the car. What a terrible break for that guy. Unless it could be a great break, it starts raining a little bit heavier, and he gets a red flag right here. Maybe it saves him.
Yeah, he was inside the top 10. Let's take a closer look and see what happened if we can determine. Not much.
You know, you wonder if he picked up some debris. It's so late in the race, you wouldn't think an oil line had worked its way loose. Maybe perhaps some debris off the track cut an oil line.
Let's check in with Chris Devoto.
Well, Chris, I'm down here in the 48 pit. They have had a little bit of radio kind of feedback all day long, but they had found out about the smoking situation basically from other teams. The 88, their teammate said, hey, why are you guys smoking? Jimmy, if he was trying to tell Chad, Chad couldn't hear. Chad just complaining about the radio situation. They're trying to figure out what the issue is right now. They were one of the teams that came in to pit, just making a small adjustment. But right now, they're as confused as anyone. Helmut's just going on the crew. They're trying to figure it out as we speak.
All right, well, thanks, Crystal. Let's listen in on the radio communication for Jimmy Johnson's crew.
You got oil coming out of our car somewhere. Yeah, you got oil leaking somewhere.
Because we do?
Yeah.
Why? What makes you say that? Why do you say that?
Well, because 17 told us we did, and there's smoke coming out of the back of it.
Yeah, smoke in the street. Yeah, we got a pump somewhere.
Not exactly scientific, but eventually you figure it out. You can also see the raindrops. Jimmy Johnson in the last 3 races has had the best average finish of any driver. And, of course, the great news this week with only the fine, no points or suspension for Team 48.
You can see him shutting the engine off there in case there is some oil running out of it. It'll not damage the engine. But what a break this could be. He's running in the top 10 right now, Chris. The rain's falling. They stop this race, and he doesn't lose any more points after gaining 25 earlier in this week. Big week for Jimmy Johnson.
Yeah, and just outside the top 10. All right, so rain here in Fontana. Just over 70 laps to go. Tony Stewart, your leader. Problems for Jimmy Johnson. The Auto Club 400, presented by 5 Hour Energy, is sponsored by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. By AT&T, the nation's largest 4G network. AT&T, rethink possible. By Coca-Cola, it's time to refuel. Coca-Cola, open happiness. And by Lowe's. Lowe's, never stop improving. Rain is out here in Southern California. Our Auto Club race summary. Tony Stewart, your current leader. We've had 5 different leaders, 9 lead changes, and 1 caution, the yellow flag. Just 1 caution out, expecting the red any moment as the cars are stopped. The rain is falling. Drivers getting out of their cars.
Yeah, and this is a really tough time for a guy like Denny Hamlin. He's sitting there challenging Tony Stewart for the win. He makes a decision, comes to pit road. He's got fresh tires, and no one ahead of him does. But, man, the skies look very, very ominous.
Yeah, it looks like we may not get the track back. So let's bring in Larry, Darrell, and Mike. And I guess, Darrell, at this point, Tony Stewart made his move aggressively, had a car good enough to be out in front, at least at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, the strategy that he had, that kind of that juke that got Denny Hamlin on the pit road, that could be the winning move. I mean, Hamlin did have a fast car, but Tony stayed out. The 18 stayed out with him. Those two guys are running first and second.
Well, now, Steve Addington's a sharp crew chief. He's got access to the same weather radar that we showed you earlier. But their new competition director, Greg Zipadelli, remember when Zipadelli left Joey Logano on the racetrack at New Hampshire in the rain, and Logano and Zippy went to victory lane.
Yeah, regardless, though, all the teams have the same radar, and I'm just shocked with what we're seeing on our radar that they did bring Denny Hamlin in. You know, he's led a bunch of laps, and I just felt like as long as the radar is showing what it's showing, as long as you can look outside turn 3 and 4 and see that wall of rain, I just felt like the top 5 or 6 drivers had to stay out. And with the top 9 staying out, Jimmie Johnson winning the battle off pit road, which he probably hopes it rains for 40 days and 40 nights right now, Denny Hamlin outside the top 10.
You know, Larry, one thing I'm shocked about is all the problems we've had on pit road today. This is one of the nicest pit roads, great big pit boxes. The only thing, I don't understand why guys are having so much trouble today.
Right, lots of speeding and several equipment and tires leaving the pit. So a lot of fellows have spent some extra time in pit lane. 71 to go in Fontana.
To the Auto Club Speedway.
Turkey or sausage? What about 14? Who's that?
And we're glad you're with us for NASCAR on Fox. At the moment, blue skies greeted the drivers when the day started, but the rain has moved in, so 71 laps to go officially in the race. And Tony Stewart, who on lap 85 went ahead of Kyle Busch, is your leader, with Dale Earnhardt Jr. currently running third. Matt Kenseth, who also had a pit violation like Jeff Gordon, your Daytona 500 winner. He's familiar with rain. Currently in the 13th spot. Brad Keselowski, last week's winner. Joey Logano, currently 24th, went to watch American Idol.
Yeah, one of the fastest guys in this race has been Jeff Gordon. Look, Meyer down there in the 26th spot. Trouble on pit road. You just can't overcome it when it's a sprint race like this, Chris. Green flag pit stops, a lot of opportunity to make mistakes. Some were made here today.
All right, the race leader, Tony Stewart, who is trying to get his second win of the season already, and this the 5th race, is standing by with our Dick Berggren.
Well, Tony, awfully fast today, but do you know how to do a rain dance?
No, but I'm going to make a phone call here in a minute to Glenn Stiers at Oshweekend Speedway, see if him and some of the guys up there can help us out.
You are messing up your entire image. Here's a guy that's supposed to go really fast once the weather warms up, the tracks get hot and slick, and if it keeps raining today, this should be your second early on in the season. What is going on?
I don't know, but I like it. I know that. We've really proud of Steve Addington and all of our guys. This Office Depot Mobile One Chevy is bad fast, so we just got to, doesn't matter whether we get more rain or whether we go back to green. I'm happy with my car. We got a couple good Gibbs cars that are around us too that are pretty fast, so we just got to see what we got.
And the driver's pretty treacherous, too. That fake you did on pit road where you wound up with Hamlin going down and you didn't. Tell us about that.
I don't think I faked him out. I mean, I'm sure he had made the decision already, so looked good, though.
All right, Smoke, thanks. Steve?
Yeah, thanks, Dick. The 11 car, Denny Hamlin, Darian Grubb, they were committed. It might have looked good on television, but in essence, let's explain that. I heard you guys on the radio, and Darian said, we think we just have a few raindrops here. Let's go ahead and pit.
Yeah, even if it is a small cell, if it gets the track wet, you're out an hour, so if there's any cell within an hour, then you're in big trouble. But this is the strategy that you make. We're planning on the race going back green. If it doesn't, then we'll lose some spots. But if we chose to stay out there, then we were going to have to be behind all the cars that pitted, and then your chances of winning decreases greatly. So either give up a few spots if it finishes up here, or you lose a chance to win in the grand scheme of things.
Denny, I heard you all during the race say that the car was tight, but you guys were making progress. Not big progress, but it seemed like every time you stopped, you gained a little bit.
Yeah, and, we would lose a lot of times somewhere between coming in and leaving. We'd lose 3 or 4 seconds, and we'd have to make the whole run to kind of get that back together. And we finally got to Tony's bumper, and the rain came out. So it just, we've gotten our car better. We just are going to keep working on it and see if we can't make it a race-winning car.
Thank you, Dave. Appreciate your time. Let's go to Krista.
Well, Steve, Jimmy Johnson and team were also making gains on it, and then something happened. What exactly happened inside your race car?
We're not exactly sure, but either a piece of debris hit an oil line and knocked the fitting off, or clipped the line and snagged it, and we clipped an artery. Bottom line, it's losing blood fast. It's either that or possibly an oil cooler. Something happened there. I really don't know what had happened. I'm just kind of idling along, and my friends pulled up alongside of me and were pointing, said, "You're smoking," and I heard it over the radio, and I could obviously see it and smell it, but I don't know what really caused it yet. So it's just a wild event, change of events, because when I came to pit road and took 4 tires, I wanted it to, dry up real quick, and now I'm sitting here praying for rain. So as I'm sending these signals to the man upstairs, he's really confused what I've been asking for in the last 3 or 4 minutes.
Let's talk about radio communication, too, because I was in your pit, and it seemed like Chad didn't know what was going on either. You said you got the word from teammates, other drivers. That's where Chad was getting the word from also.
Yeah, for some reason, the inbound traffic to the pit box, my radio traffic, isn't getting to the guys, so Earl is needing to relay what's going on. I can hear everybody fine, but it's not getting to the pit box. So there's a bit of confusion as to what was going on and how big the problem was. And then I came by, and he saw the smoke show and knew we had a big problem.
Thanks, Jimmy. Jimmy talking about his spotter, Earl Barbin. Yeah, he right now is hoping that this weather does not go away.
All right, thanks, Kristen, Jimmy. So Michael, if it is called costly, very costly for Jimmy Johnson.
Well, if it's called, it's not. It's perfect. He's going to finish 10th. They go back to racing, though. He's got to come in and change an oil line. He'll lose probably 10 laps doing so. Guess how many points that'll cost him, Chris? 25.
Like 25 points.
Yeah, that's how many he got back earlier
He
this
just
week.
got that back. What are you, a chief appellate analyst now? We'll watch closely. The weather is part of the story as we take a look at our Hollywood Hotel weather map. All that green is not very good.
Green, go, go, go? No, not in this case. And that's Jimmy Johnson's friend right now, as is it's Tony Stewart's. I like the call that Darian Grubb, though, with Denny Hamlin made. He said, we're not going to win if we stay out there. We could win if we pit. I know it was risky, and this picture isn't pretty, but they took a chance to win the race. That's what we talked about all day long. If you're going to be in a championship, if you're going to win this championship, you better win me some races. That's exactly what that team did.
Kevin Harvick won the race last year here when we didn't have weather problems. He's standing by with our Matt Yoakum.
Shane Wilson kept Harvick on the racetrack, moved up 2 spots to 4th. Great call by Shane, but looking at the race car, you've been making some small adjustments. Is the first part of the run what's really your biggest hindrance, Kevin?
Yeah, we're just having a tough time getting going, and after we run 7 or 8 laps, then the car gets going really good. So I don't know if we have too high, too low air pressure, or if we're too tight. We're too tight taking off. We've been pretty much too tight for the most part, but it gets good later in the run. So all in all, the guys on the Jimmy Johnson Chevrolet have done a pretty good job, and just keep plugging away.
I like the phrase crushing them in 3 and 4, but 1 and 2, is that where you really need to make some gains?
I can maintain in 1 and 2. I feel good about the speed in the car in 3 and 4. It's just I can't really get through the center of the corner like I need to. The car doesn't rotate like I need it to. So I don't really know what we need, but we need to rotate a little bit better.
Thanks, Kevin.
Yeah, thank you.
Chris?
All right, thanks, Matt. I was just talking to Michael about a rain-shortened Daytona 500 winner. We mentioned that on the pre-race show. Just the thought process as we wait this out. The radar doesn't look good. The track doesn't dry fast here.
No, it takes a long time to dry this track, and there's a lot of rain in the area. You know what I love, though, Chris? In the Daytona 500 that I won, I had the best car. I was the fastest car, and I won. If it happens that Tony Stewart wins this thing and they call it, the fastest guy won the race, and he deserved to win the race. So there'll be some justice in this victory.
All right, still time to sort it out. Meanwhile, Greg Biffle, who was looking for his first win of the year, came in as the points leader, and he is standing by.
Chris starting 4th, currently in the 6th position, and you, Greg, talking about making adjustments. Where are you if this race goes back in, and what do you need to do next?
Well, I think we're in pretty good shape if we get back going. I don't think we are, but our car runs really well when the grip's high, and we've gotten tight as this race went on, and the track will be a lot freer once we get back going here. So if we do, we'll put 4 tires on it. We might have something for the top 4 guys like we did at the beginning of the day, but 6th, we know we're going to lose a couple points to the 29 if it stops now.
But you also know you're racing for wins, but that points lead that you mentioned, very important, because we go to Martinsville next week where the points are reset. How important is keeping that points lead and getting that all-important first garage stall?
Well, it's pretty important. You know, that'd be exciting to do, but, you know, Martinsville's going to be a tough day for us, too. We felt like we do have a better car. We didn't keep up with the track today. I let it get too tight and haven't kept up with adjustments, but, you know, top 10, 6th place is not too bad, I guess. But we want to see it get going because we think we got something for the guys at the front.
Thanks, Greg. Chris?
Thanks, Krista. Carl Edwards currently 5th, followed by Greg Biffle in our standings at the moment. That's where your Fords are. Tony Stewart in a Chevy, your leader. 4 different winners over the first 4 races, but rain here with Tony in the lead. The Auto Club 400 on Fox, presented by 5 Hour Energy, is sponsored by Toyota. By Farmers, we are insurance, we are farmers. By Subway Restaurants, serving up fresh takes on Italian. Subway, eat fresh. And by 5 Hour Energy.
Martinsville, we're here to race. In the wall hard.
Mr. Martinsville is in your rearview mirror.
The closer clinches the deal. Martin Truex. Wow.
Boogity, boogity, boogity! We're racing, you bunch of hot dogs!
Next Sunday from Virginia, and Tony Stewart won the last Martinsville race. That was during the chase. Remember, he challenged Carl Edwards. He's doing a little throwdown here to all drivers if this holds up, if the rain continues to fall. The second win of this early season. Time for our 5 Hour Energy move of the race, and let's look at what Tony Stewart did to Denny Hamlin and Kevin Harvick.
We talked about you needed to be aggressive if you're going to win today because it's more than likely going to be a shortened race. Is this aggressive or what? Look, he drives right up in front of Denny Hamlin and says, nope, you're not going anywhere, and you aren't either, Harvick.
That is the 5 Hour Energy move of the race. And when you think about Tony Stewart, the last 10 races going back to last year, of course, when he won the Sprint Cup Championship, he's won 4 of those, including the one victory earlier this year. He really can't explain the fast start. He's usually a guy who heats up later on. And as Larry McReynolds pointed out during the broadcast here, this is a guy who felt like at first, I don't even know if we're going to be able to do well in the chase. Right. But he showed everybody what's the difference. Even changing crew chiefs, he seems comfortable as this owner-driver.
Yeah, I think Steve Addington, his new crew chief, is saying, oh, I don't know why, but this is good. I like this. They're off to a great start. That car flew at Las Vegas, and it's flying here today. So I like where that team is headed. And, you know, you talk about Mr. Martinsville. I heard Darrell say that earlier. I can't figure out who Mr. Martinsville is anymore. Tony won last fall. Denny Hamlin looked like he had his arms around that place. Jimmy Johnson, we're going to have a really interesting battle on that short track next weekend.
All right, under the rain delay here, Tony Stewart giving us a narrative look back at the Sprint Cup win for him, his first win at Las Vegas.
Haven't had any luck here yet, but we got a good car here, so we'll just take care of it all day long and get us what we deserve here.
Pretty greasy at the beginning, which I like it when it gets that way, but we just couldn't. We were a little bit too loose at the start of the race to be up front where we needed to be, but we knew the track would kind of come to us a little bit, but we still had to be proactive and tighten the car up, and I thought Steve did a really good job of making adjustments all day.
Yeah, bud, that's exactly what I needed right there. That's really, really good on the exit on both ends.
You know what Tony Stewart just did? Just ran his fastest lap of the race.
The pace was so fast that, you know, and the track kind of got wide, but it seemed like as everybody got their cars better, you kind of settled into a couple different spots on the racetrack that seemed to be really, really good. So it got to where that track position was really crucial.
Send them to a message. Let them know I'm on my way.
Green flag. Oh, here comes Stewart to the bottom. 3 wide for the lead. That's Vegas, baby.
How about that? The good guys are going to lead one here.
Tony is under a bit of a pressure, letting Darian Grubb go, and Darian goes over there with Denny Hamlin, and they won the race last weekend. I think he's trying to prove something here today.
Caution's out. Caution's out. Open up. Come fuel only. Here we come, Gooch.
You weren't going to save 5 laps of fuel. So when we got the caution and we were able to come in and top off, that was a big step for us of being able to eliminate the fuel mileage game out of the equation. Just get up on the wheel and wheel it.
We're covered here, bud. Green, white, checkered up situation and everything.
Green flag. Here we go. 9 laps to go. And Stewart gets
just kept nailing it. Every time we would nail it from the restart zone to turn 1 and get clear of those guys.
Yeah, nobody's been able to touch Tony Stewart on restarts today.
Watch Johnson on that high side. He's going to get a heck of a run right here. He's looking under Tony. Tony blocks.
Pretty sporty. What y'all pay me to do.
Jimmy tried everything he could, but 14 is just stout.
He's up a little line, just a little high upper. Clear by 2, clear by 3, clear by 4.
Tony Stewart makes it a smoke show in Vegas.
Here. Great job, Addington. Yeah. Hell yeah, folks. Hell yeah.
It's nice to get this win at Vegas finally. We've been so close at winning a race here that it was just nice to finally get one here, even though it's in the spring, it wasn't as big a key as just finally winning here.
That is beautiful.
And Tony may be doing that. That's his pit box. Steve Addington, crew chief. If this rain holds up, it'll be his second win, his 46th career win. He's a 3-time NASCAR champ coming off of last year. We know he's a Hall of Fame driver. But his measure of greatness.
He's one of the world's greatest drivers, not just in NASCAR, but around the world. He drove Lewis Hamilton's Formula One car at Watkins Glen last year in the rain. I called him up and I said, Tony, what was that like? He said, it's like driving a slot car with a knee brake. He was just amazed at what that Formula One car can do. But, Chris, what I loved about Tony last year was at Martinsville. He almost went a lap down. He figured out a way to stay on the lead lap on the outside. You know what he did later in the race? He held off Jimmy Johnson by running the outside and won that race. That's how smart he is, and that's how tough he is. You give him something to fight with, he's going to fight you till the end.
Aggressive, both on the track and sometimes in dealing with people who rub him the wrong way. He certainly got the better of Carl Edwards, who was in good position going into the chase last year, but that's when Tony won the races and overtook Carl. Carl hasn't won since last year, and he is standing by.
Well, thank you, Chris. That was, in fact, an epic battle between Carl and Tony Stewart. Now, Carl, it's funny. This racetrack on television, I think it's deceptively easy, and I'll use your day as an example. Listening to you on the radio, you're trying to get up to the high side, then you had to run the bottom, and just continually trying to get that car to run where it would.
Yeah, and it was just getting really fast. So I was having a good time. I didn't want to see the rain come. We were marching forward, and this is the kind of race we needed. We needed to come, battle, get the car working right. We made adjustments all day, and we had a good solid run for Subway. Hopefully we get to go race again, but the rain's coming down harder and harder, and but I can't say enough thanks to Subway. I don't think you guys got your sandwiches yet, but they're over there in the hauler.
Your crew actually had said we could have a sandwich, but because we love you, we had to come back here and talk to you.
Well, if you do get a sandwich, Subway is the best one, and we hope that you enjoy them. But now we hopefully get to race again, but if we don't, this was a great day for us. We're marching back forward in the points. That's huge for us. We want to be leading the standings when the chase starts.
Carl, I talked to you earlier this week on NASCAR Race Hub, and you had an interesting point, and that is when I asked you about performance, you said the numbers really weren't indicative of where you guys were or are today.
Right. I think we got off to a surprisingly slow start to the season, but we ran out of fuel there at Phoenix, and we had that wreck at Bristol. But other than that, if you look at how Greg, Matt, and myself, we've all been running, it's a good time to be in a Ford. Our whole Fastenal Subway team is running well, and now we just look to march to some of these tracks with everything in, all our ducks in a row, and hopefully build on this run.
All right, thanks a lot. Appreciate your time, Carl.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve and Carl. As he's looking up at the rain, and we're looking down at the track, and you can see the rain falling. Here are the standings to the moment, the points based on where we are if this race is called with Tony Stewart. He would be your eventual winner, and just outside the top 10, 12th would be Carl Edwards. He will have gained 3 spots. That's what he was referring to. But Greg Biffle hanging on and slightly ahead of Kevin Harvick.
Yeah, another solid day for Biff. He's in the 6th spot right now if this thing comes to an end. So you got to like what he's doing on a consistency basis. But we talked before the show, you can't win this championship by being consistent.
Kyle Busch currently 14th, and we thought, of course, he was Darrell's pick for this race. You had Casey Kane coming in, and Kyle certainly has yet to get things going.
Boy, he was fast today, though, and it was fun to see him up front, leading laps, scrubbing the wall, doing whatever he had to do to try to keep that car up front. But it's not been a Kyle Busch-esque start to the year. They've struggled a little bit, but they've got speed in that Toyota, and I think that's the key.
All right, Ryan Newman, who is a teammate of Tony Stewart with Stewart-Haas Racing, is standing by with our Matt Yoakum.
Sitting solidly in the top 10. And Ryan, when you look at your race so far up to this point, what's been the biggest thing you guys have been fighting?
Just a little inconsistency. We went from really loose to really tight in one stop and didn't make the car, didn't make a big adjustment on the U.S. Army ROTC Chevrolet. So, that was a little bit of a disappointment for us. But, if the rain keeps coming, congrats to Tony and his crew. They did an awesome job with their Office Depot Chevrolet. And we'll take a top 10 out of it. I think we were capable of much more than that, but we'll see what happens.
Not inconsistent, though, is your passion for animals, and Ryan Newman Foundation recently did something very special for one of our soldiers.
Yeah, one of the soldiers who was over in Afghanistan, I believe it was a special ops soldier. He found a friend, and it was a four-legged friend, and he wanted to adopt it once he got back, and we found a way to reunite him with his dog Trigger. So it was really special. Obviously, a dog can be man's best friend, and we're very passionate about animals, dogs and cats, and everything else with the Ryan Newman Foundation. So really honored to be able to reunite that special soldier with an abandoned animal he found in Afghanistan.
Very special move. Chris?
Thank you. Ryan Newman, of course, talking about Trigger, the dog. So many of the drivers in NASCAR have dogs that kind of live with them on the road as they travel, creating a close alliance.
Sometimes a dog's the only one can understand all the problems you have as a race car driver, trying to explain to them what all went on the racetrack. And, most people look at you like you're crazy, but your dog always looks at you like you're perfect. And
dogs are very, very loyal.
That's why they're so special.
And very supportive. We're waiting to find out if Tony Stewart is the winner here as the rain continues to fall.
Pretty full crowd here today. That's pretty cool to see. If he'd have worked with me a little bit, I wouldn't be trying to scream over right now. That's right, we're good. All right, way to keep digging here. Freaking destroyed. Destroyed. And corner, good buddy.
And we welcome you back inside the Hollywood Hotel and racing from Fontana. That's an impressive leaderboard. Tony Stewart taking the lead at lap 85, and Tony Stewart officially the winner. Red flag rain, a rain-shortened, first ever rain-shortened race here at the Auto Club Speedway, but the second win this season already for Tony Stewart in just 5 races.
And what a start for this team. You get a new crew chief, you want things to get off on a good start so that you can build some momentum. Tony's certainly done that with 2 victories.
All right, Dale Earnhardt Jr. winds up third, and Chris Devoto is standing by with Junior.
Yes, I am, Chris. Dale Earnhardt Jr. had a great race car. I know the last thing I think I heard you say before that last stops, you said, my car is good now. Could you have won this race had it been resumed?
We never know what would have happened, but Tony had an awesome car. I thought the 48 he was kind of pulling away from me steadily throughout the entire day, but the track was going to tighten up, and we were sort of preparing for that, and that's something we've really kind of had some problems with this year, and we were getting ready to start freeing our car up pretty good for those last little runs there, and I was happy. The car was fast. We had a great car in practice. Right at the end of the practice, I told the guys this thing's really good, and the Diamond Mountain Dew National Guard Chevrolet was great from the drop of the green, and we moved forward all day long. We had great pit strategy, stopping a little bit earlier than most people, gaining some track position that way too.
And I know California not always on your list of top tracks, so you got to feel good. Yeah.
I like this place, man. It's a lot of fun.
Maybe I was thinking results.
Yeah. I haven't run as good here as I would have liked to, but I love the racetrack. The multi-grooves, it's a lot of fun to run on. And, it's definitely getting some age on it, but, I think the asphalt out there lasts a few more years.
Another great finish for Dale Earnhardt Jr., Chris.
All right, thanks, Chris. 129 laps, and Tony Stewart is your winner, his second victory this year. Dick Berggren is standing by. It's damp, but it's a legitimate victorious celebration, Dick.
Indeed it is. Tony has been hugging his team. You are doing so incredibly well. Are you driving better than you ever have before?
I don't know. I'm definitely not. I mean, I turned 40 last year, and I'm definitely not losing anything with age here. So, but I've got awesome race cars, and it starts with all of our guys at Stewart Haas Racing and the Hendrick Chassis Department, and especially here at California, the Hendrick Engine Department really shows up here. So thank you guys back there in North Carolina, and Office Depot, Mobile One, U.S. Army, Quicken Loans, Outback Steakhouse, Chevrolet, just everybody, and Steve Addington and these guys, and these guys back at our shop. I've been with them most of the winter, and they've been busting their butts, and we got really good race cars.
All green flag pit stops today, not a single mistake by anybody on pit road. How hard do your guys train?
They train real hard. I mean, Joe Patet just he does a great job as our pit stop coach, and we got a really good staff of guys that work these guys out in the gym at the shop, and they do a lot of pit stop practice. So everybody does. I mean, everybody down through here, all these pit crews work really, really hard. But I'm proud of our guys. They're a fun group of guys, and they're one unit when they're all working out at the shop, and then when we get to the racetrack, we're on the U.S. Army Chevy or the Office Depot Mobile One Chevy.
Congratulations, Tony Stewart. 2 wins in the first 5 races this year. Chris?
Last year, Tony didn't win until the fall in Chicago, celebrating with Steve Addington his 2nd win already, beating the rain and the other drivers here in Southern California. And he said he was 40, but I'm not losing anything. We'll have more in a moment. Tony Stewart led 42 laps, and the most important when the rains came, moving out in front to a 129-lap race. He's your winner as we check the unofficial results. You heard from quite a few of these guys. Junior 3rd, Carl Edwards 5th.
Look at Kurt Busch in 9th, top 10 for that team. And Jimmie Johnson, he had that Christmas sweater on in the opening, said how much he loved Christmas. It's got to feel like Christmas this week. He got 25 points back on his appeal earlier, and now this 10th place with a broken car. That's amazing.
And he appeared on Jimmy Kimmel at the talk. He had a great week back in his home state of California. Brad Keselowski, the winner in Bristol, said, hey, this really isn't my kind of track. Wound up 18th.
Fast car for Jeff Gordon, 26th place finish. Those hurt. Another guy that had a good car and wound up in the 30s is Jamie McMurray because of pit road problems. This thing went fast, Chris. You make a mistake, there just wasn't any time to recover from them.
And pit road problems also costing Matt Kenseth a little bit later on. But Jeff Gordon, actually running well late and had that problem late in terms of when this race was officially called. And those are your Auto Club 400 unofficial results. Kyle Busch leading the most laps, 80, as he took off from pole sitter Denny Hamlin to start things. And let's get some final thoughts from Darrell, Larry, and Mike on a rain-soaked victory for Tony Stewart.
Well, it is rain-shortened, Chris, but the best car won. Tony Stewart passed everybody he needed to pass. He's now won the last 15 races, 1 out of every 10 of his Sprint Cup starts, and today's 46th career win ties Buck Baker for 14th on NASCAR's all-time win list. Wow.
This team, the 14 team of Tony Stewart, he woke up. When they got in the chase last year, I don't know, he slept that first half of last year, but he woke up and he is alive and he is well and he is kicking. That car is amazing. Halfway through this race, it came alive, took off, took the lead, and never looked back.
Larry, a lot of trouble on pit road today. Over a dozen teams had problems that got them a lap or more down and no chance to recover.
Well, I think drivers and teams were thinking about the rain's coming. We got to get to halfway, and I think that's one reason we ran caution-free all 129 laps of this race, trying to pick up speed on pit road, getting on and off pit road. But I'm glad Michael Waltrip pointed out Kurt Busch because he was one of the 9 drivers that stayed out. We didn't talk about Kurt Busch today because why? He was almost a lap down a big portion of that run there. They stay out. Kurt gets his first top 10 finish of the year with Phoenix Racing.
Well, Chris, we talked at the top of the day how vastly different this was from Bristol. And next week we go to our smallest track of Martinsville, Virginia, and that's going to be a lot of fun.
Tony Stewart singing, dancing in the rain. Thanks, guys. And we showed you moments ago, Michael, the points now that they are official. It's worth a second glance because that second victory for Tony Stewart, the wins, as we know, oh so important, but up to 4th. Still Biffle and Harvick, your top 2.
You know what I love about our point system? Denny Hamlin there in 7th is 24 back. He lost 9 points by making that pit road decision. He could be 3rd in the points right now. You just hope those things don't come back to bite you when they add it all up in September.
And the rain helps out Jimmie Johnson. You were quick to point out not only after the ruling on the appeal going all the way to the limit, so just a fine against Chad Knaus and Team 48. And of course, Jimmie Johnson, one of those guys like Carl Edwards, Kyle Busch, some of the headline drivers still searching for their first win of the year. Some final thoughts coming up from Tony Stewart's second victory. You're watching NASCAR on Fox from Fontana, California. Promotional considerations provided by Wrapping things up here in rainy Fontana, California, not too far from Hollywood. Crazy things in Southern California. It's actually snowing just a few miles from here. There were blue skies when we started the race today.
I wonder if Jimmy Johnson's up there skiing again.
He might be. Tony Stewart, when the day started, we all knew. In fact, even the weatherman scratching his head. I don't even think you're going to start the race. Well, we did. We went halfway. We went beyond halfway. So you had to be on your game and not make mistakes.
Certainly. And this race is exactly up Tony Stewart's alley. Think about him. He's a dirt racer. He runs a 25-30 lapper. When they say go, he's gone. You saw him cutting off people early in the race, making Harvick mad, getting in front of Denny Hamlin, but just charging. And then your crew had to be perfect, too. One mistake and you're out. You take a winning car and you finish in the 20s with it like Jeff Gordon did. Jimmy Johnson had a solid day. A lot of guys that you think of that can just charge were right up toward the front.
And Tony held on for the win. We go to Martinsville, shortest track, next Sunday.
Yeah, I'd like to define who Mr. Martinsville is. Is it Denny Hamlin? Is it Jimmy Johnson? Or will Tony Stewart win again like he did last fall?
Yeah, certainly worth watching, and we hope you tune in next Sunday. We'll hope for some dry skies there. That's Tony right behind us. Like he's not getting enough airtime, right? Tonight on Fox, The Simpsons, Bob's Burgers, and then everybody's favorite American Dad. Next week, you heard us talk about it. Martinsville, Kevin Harvick passed Dale Earnhardt Jr. with 4 laps to go to win his second straight race. Remember, he won the California race last year, the closer, and then won that one.
Yeah, and then a huge crash up there last year by Martin Truex Jr. Remember, his throttle hung, and he went into the wall, caught on fire. So the short tracks, the speed is there. When you hit something, you can feel it.
Yeah, in fact, the next 3 tracks on the schedule, we get an Easter break after Martinsville, but Texas and Kansas, those are all part of the chase eventually when we get there. So will those upcoming events be a gauge for the guys that play for the championship? Certainly defending champ Tony Stewart will be part of that. So 4 different winners over 5 races, but Tony Stewart, the double winner so far. We hope you join us next Sunday. For Michael Waltrip, I'm Chris Myers, our entire gang. Have a great week.